Are you ready? You won't be needing those here. Welcome to the Enclave.
Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robby Howell, creator of Enclave, and I'm here to bring you an Enclave mission today with three fine players, two of whom I already know, one of whom I'm meeting for the first time, but is already impressing me. Let us go through your characters, my friends, and then we'll jump into a couple of plugs. Introduce yourselves. First of all, let's begin with James. Please fire away.
Hi, my name's James. I'm going to be playing Danyel Wormmind tonight. He's a wizard, and he's fresh out of the character creator, as I've never played this game before.
Excellento. And next, Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm going to be playing Siri. She is an illusionist and a con woman and a bit of a scaredy cat at this point.
Lovely. And lastly.
Hi, my name is Dave, and I will be playing Crow. He is a gunslinger from a Weird West background.
Awesome. And apologies in advance if I alternate between your actual name and Detour, which is how I know you a little better. And once again, Enclave is an entirely diceless tabletop role-playing game. It is set in an infinite, self-contained multiverse. The only thing that is consistent is the shadowy mercenary organization known as the Enclave, which deploys squads of agents all across the infinite world to accomplish all manner of missions. Every single time we play, it's taking place in a completely different setting, and often with completely different characters. Each one of these characters comes from a completely separate background, brought together to be sent out on a mission. So this is going to be almost all of their first time meeting each other, with one notable exception. So, we're going to take a little bit more of a deeper dive into all of your characters before we start. I have a mission ready to go. They have given me what are called focus words in advance, but we'll get into a little more about the logistics of that in a moment. In the same order you introduced yourselves, would you mind giving us a little more detail about your character? You don't have to go the full build if you don't want, but an overview of what they can generally do mechanically, as well as their an idea of their appearance and some about their backstory.
Alrighty, so Danyel Wormmind, 5'9", 5'10" young man with messy black hair and fair skin. Very much more of a book nerd and researcher, less of a combatant. Is excited to learn about the various universes he'll be traveling to and recording his findings upon arrival. Also wears a very crisp purple suit with matching white undershirt. Always has to maintain his appearance at all times.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And also of note, this will be your first time playing Enclave.
Yes.
Now, I know that you have a good amount of tabletop experience, or I presume such. Would you mind giving a very brief overview of your own tabletop background?
Well, I started DMing for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition back in 2016, and really haven't stopped since. I've kind of been branded as the forever DM. Just DMing on and off since then. Currently running a Tyranny of Dragons group with a couple of my close friends. But yeah, mostly just D&D. That's the bulk of my experience.
Excellent. That makes a ton of sense. And nextly, Mary, would you mind giving us an overview of Siri, as well as a little bit about your own Enclave and TTRPG experience?
Yeah, Siri is based on the wizard from The Wizard of Oz. Essentially, she stumbled her way into ruling a kingdom and kind of just rolled with it for a bit until everybody found out that she had no right to rule and rightfully kicked her out. And so she's been trying to be a better leader and a better person so that maybe she can feel better about that whole situation. She is blonde. She always wears pink. I also always wear pink. Um, and I think the thing that she likes doing the most is viewpoint, but I'm sure that'll come up. As for my RPG background, I feel like I've always been playing RPGs. I actually recently found out that the first RPG that I played was a ripoff of Enclave. My oldest brother is one of Robby's friends, and he told my second oldest brother about Enclave, and he ripped it off. So when I was 8, I was playing an Enclave ripoff game. Which I think is really cool. So when I found out that it was an actual thing, I of course loved it.
And it's awesome to have you in. Also of note, Siri is a reasonably high-level character. Could you give us a bit about how she has grown and like how you've adapted the character and what she's more specialized into these days?
Definitely. So Siri is level 3 now, and one of the things that I've been focusing on when leveling her up is putting, whenever you level up, you get to put 2 pluses into stats. They have to be different stats, so 2 pluses overall. And so I've been trying to put them into skills that I think she's been leaning towards. So the first one, I put it more into intelligence, because it seemed like she was going in that route. And then this level up, I put one into spirit, which is more of an emotional sense. And then I've always been putting one into arcane because I like doing magic stuff. And then you also get to mess around with abilities, but I will mention that, I think, when it comes up.
Awesome. And lastly, take it away with Crow.
Sure. So yeah, as I mentioned, Crow is a gunslinger. He comes from a weird West background. So imagine the U.S. Wild West, but with a very much supernatural or sci-fi slant to it. He has a pretty in-depth backstory, but the long story short is his mother was a witch. But she was murdered by witch hunters who then took him in, lying to him about what happened, and raised him in their like anti-magic hating ways. Physically he's about 27 years old, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, athletic build, tan skin, stubbled beard, leather duster, wicker hat, as I have here, and on his first mission, he acquired this cursed item, which he calls Bad Penny, which is a silver coin that no matter what happens to it, it keeps returning to his pocket. And thus, it is a magic item that he can't get rid of, and he's rather upset about it.
But he is learning to make a little bit more use of it. And he recently had a level up. What have you chose to do with that in short terms?
Indeed. So stat-wise, I'm keeping Crow leaning towards like the physical stats. Like I said, he's anti-magic, so he doesn't even believe that his abilities are magical in nature, although he is wrong. And yeah, for my level perk, it's going to be basically when I trick shot off of Bad Penny, I'll pitch a magical effect.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what we went with? Something to that effect. I'll look it up and make sure I get it
something
right.
to that effect. Okay, that's an excellent summary of the characters that we have. What we are going to be doing now is I'm going to be giving you a mission statement. This is a mission that I came up with within the last half hour. Normally, I like to do this on camera, but to preserve a little bit more time for our finite stream viewing abilities, I felt it would be prudent to get my focus words from my players in advance. Focus words are any word or short phrase used by the Conduit, namely the host of the game. We use Conduit instead of DM or GM, to create a mission from scratch specifically designed for the characters who are participating. Now, in this particular case, I received one focus word from each player. If you wouldn't mind, in the same order that you've been introducing, sharing with the audience the focus words you've been using.
I went with a good old literary classic and just went with Eldritch Nightmares.
I said, quote, "I killed the sun for you."
Excellent.
And mine was Hanging Man.
Perfect. Okay, and because of that, here is going to be your mission statement with those focus words as the inspiration behind it. You are being sent to a desolate place, a high and dusty crag that has only ever been used for death. The reason being is it is in not close proximity, but some amount of proximity to a rather large city that is a prominent, not capital, but like a major hub within a larger empire beyond. And this crag has two main functions for the city. Once, For one, it serves as an execution site, but also a temple. The reason being is that in this particular society, a variety of different gods are worshipped, of whom two will be relevant today, and the first and most prominent being Orse, O-R-S-E. Orse is a god of many things, but the most two important being fate and entropy. Whenever someone is sent to be condemned and killed, Orse is the one who is believed to preside over such things. This is also relevant because the gods of this region are not purely ethereal beings. They are living beings there in the flesh. Gods can die, though they do not go quietly, as we will soon discover. The reason this is relevant is because Orse, as a god of fate, also has many who hate him. And one such person is Prince Tatshar, T-A-T-S-H-A-R. He is on his way to this very crag with a team of hand-picked elites. He is a masterful warrior who has gained many accolades. He is prominent within the realm, and he also is deeply in love with a woman who is dying. And he places the blame squarely at the feet of Orse. He also has a god at his back, a goddess in this case, of heroes, Tafira. Tafira and Orse are bitter, hated rivals of each other. Tafira, being a goddess of heroes and love, runs almost directly opposite to Orse, being a god of fate and entropy. Tatshar's goal is to kill Orse, destroy him for good with the goddess at his back. Your goal is to make sure he does not. You must save the god of entropy by any means necessary. He appears only ever as an old, decrepit man. He has no ability to protect himself, no ability to flee. Or, I mean, he can, but he'd be hobbling. Now, you could say, oh, well, would we have to kill this goddess in the process? No, because she is not physically there. She is blessing Tatshar, but is not physically present. However, her blessings will make him viciously tenacious. And as such, you should expect a serious fight if you decide to trade blows with him. Remember, he is there with a group of hand-picked elites, all of whom are fervently loyal to him. Attacking a god is not something seen lightly in this land. And only someone who has been blessed by a god themselves could ever dream of doing such a thing. Frankly, it is considered unbelievable hubris that he would do so. It is going to be not night, but evening when he arrives. The crag only has one route up to it. It's like a rickety, thin path that maybe like a cart could climb, but you couldn't have two carts passing each other. It's thin. It's so thin. The crag itself, as I said, has a temple, but this temple is a very primitive thing. It's like a series of holes and passages and small chambers built into the cliffside of this crag with a series of grisly execution remains and implements thereof outside of it. Orse himself is inside of this temple. You will be teleported in at his side. You will have a very short period of time before Tatshar arrives. Questions?
Yes.
Yep.
Mary had her hand up first.
I just raised my hand because I don't know who's gonna talk. Can we get blessed by this guy? Like that feels like that's like number one goal right here, right? And so we get blessed by this guy, and then we're also strong.
Blessings from Orse are not very fun.
In what way?
You will probably die.
I don't like that. Thank you for the information.
Now, I should note, if you can get back to the Enclave before the blessing reaches that point, you'll be fine, because the Enclave can purge you of any such issues. So if you're going to do it, make sure you can beat it or use it as a absolute last case scenario.
Do we know if this is like a thing that like takes a minute to kick in, or if it's like a you're blessed?
The Enclave does not have that sort of information. I will say in this realm, there is no documented case of a person being blessed by Orse. Not because it's never happened, but because they don't really have time to talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions?
Has
Who's gonna
Fire
go?
away, James.
Okay. Has Ors been depowered in this instance? Because it seems like he's rather defenseless on his own.
Frankly, all gods are kind of defenseless on their own in this land. They kind of have to operate through people. And given that the only way he operates through people is when they are dying, it's not really very easy for him to defend himself. He's a being who has tread in secrecy for a very, very long time. And frankly, it's only because he's been sniffed out by a rival god operating through a very powerful champion that this is even happening in the first place. And Detour, you had a thing?
Yes. What technology level can we expect, particularly from Prince Tatshar's elites? Like, what kind of weapons would we be expecting them to have?
This is pre-medieval, so think of it as being like their weapons are steel, but it's not going to be high-grade steel, and they're not going to have even crossbows. But for the era, they will have very nice weapons. They might even have a little bit of magic. Nothing compared to what you guys possess, but enough to not be pushovers. What they lack in magic and technology, however, they make up in numbers. Prince Tatshar has 20 men with him.
Oh,
What is the name of is it Tatshar?
Tatshar, yeah.
Tatshar. What's the name of his love?
Her name is Viede. I can spell that if you want.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Phonetically, it would be Viyeedeh.
That is exactly what I was going to ask. Thank you.
Nice. Other questions?
And then what is she dying from?
That is not something the Enclave actually knows.
Okay. How old are they both?
As in he and her?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Tatshar is reasonably young. He's in his early 20s. Viede is in her late teens.
Okay.
Question about this being an execution site. Are we talking like ritualistic sacrifice, or are we talking like prisoners that are
Prisoners.
Okay.
There's a ceremonial element to it because of their affiliation to the god, but it's nothing that people like enjoy. Any other questions? Yeah, Mary?
So we don't know what Orsa's power up looks like because everybody dies. What do people who are powered by the goddess of love, what do they say is their experience?
So she is one of the most generous gods and goddesses with her powers. Typically speaking, she empowers people who she feels great empathy towards, and typically will push them to their limits. They report great strength and speed and vivacity. She's brought people back to life on many occasions. Now, you ask, why can't you do this in this case? Because there's another god at play, and he trumps her in this particular case.
do the gods have any sort of reported weaknesses, or is it all just based on magnitude of faith and amount of people?
Now, since these gods are people, they could be killed by a normal person with a club. Especially Ors, given that he's a very old, decrepit man. So typically speaking, they survive by blending in and not drawing attention to themselves. They do have a lot of supernatural traits. So, for example, they live forever if they're not killed. They don't have to eat, stuff like that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Mary, you looked like you had a thing.
I had a thing, and it was so strong it blocked out the thing that was actually relevant to this current discussion. It was a thing that for later. It was not a thing for now. And the thing that was for now is gone now, and I'm so upset because it was gonna be useful.
That's okay.
Oh no!
If it comes up,
Oh,
we can
no!
mention it.
Okay.
From
Okay,
here,
okay.
I think we can move on to assembly. Assembly, for the benefit of those watching and James, is an opportunity for the characters to come together at Enclave HQ and meet. Oh, yep, thing.
Yes. So originally you had said that the prince believes that Ors is like he blames it for him for his love. But there is evidence to prove that because Tafira has been known to bring people back from the dead. So there
Yes,
is some sort of
exactly.
evidence. It's not just like blind, like blaming.
Yep.
Okay, that was the thing. There we go.
Very good. Excellent. So yes, assembly. The three characters are convening at Enclave HQ. This is not in the field. This is in the hub of this infinite world, so to speak. This is a moment for them all to be in character. All characters are assumed to know everything that we have just discussed in character. This is public knowledge to you all at this point. As of now, you are in character, though of course you can always break character to check in things with me, to mention things, to narrate stuff, to clarify, that sort of thing. If we need any prompting, we can say that, let us say that Danyel arrived first. He seems like an arrived first sort of guy. And we can say that Crow has also arrived early because he also seems like an arrive early sort of guy. Not that Siri is an arrive late sort of person, but these two are a little different. And so in this case, we'll begin with just these two entering the beautifully decorated but completely gray meeting room at Enclave HQ.
Is there a specific way we have to enter?
No, you could be assumed to have been led here by an attendant, or maybe just wandered here and found your way yourself. Enclave HQ works in mysterious ways.
Alrighty. Okay. So Daniel's gonna like take a wrong turn in his own castle and just step immediately into the conference room.
Perfect.
Huh. Well, this is certainly not my castle's cafeteria. Hello? Is there anyone in the room?
We can say that at this very moment, Crow enters.
Oh, Crow walks in. Howdy. Here for the mission,
there.
huh?
I suppose so. I was given. He pulls out like a little stack of very poorly written notes. I have these notes that I've copied down and came to me in a dream, and I've made a wrong turn on my own castle. So now I'm here, and I assume this is the mission room.
Indeed it is. I hope you're not lost.
Well, it certainly seem to have been intended to arrive here, so one could say I'm not truly lost.
Well, all right. What do you do around here?
At the moment, simply walking through the door. I've not really been introduced to the rest of the Enclave per se. I've just been recruited. Fresh meat, as some cultures might put it.
Well, I'm kind of new to this myself, but I've been through the ropes once or twice, so I could help you out.
Well, I certainly would appreciate that, Mr.
You can call me Crow.
Fantastic. You may call me Daniel.
Excellent.
Extends
the hand.
Daniel takes it and shakes it firmly.
We can say this is the point at which Siri enters.
Oh, new faces, I see. Oh, well, one new face. Hello, Crow.
Miss Siri?
Oh, you two know each other.
Yes, it was quite an eventful evening, wouldn't you say, Crow?
Eventful is a word. Terrifying might be one that I would use, but we came out of it alive. Mostly.
Fantastic.
The important part, I guess.
I am certainly glad to be a part of this group. You all seem like you have quite the adventures. If the first word is terrifying and eventful night, I cannot wait to see what we've been assigned to do today.
Take care of our god this time.
Mm-hmm. I saw that we're preventing a god's death and also maybe killing a god. I've not added that to my bucket list, but I suppose I must have an entry now.
I would suggest we avoid killing gods. I've heard they hold many grudges.
Well, if they're dead, they can't exactly hold a grudge, but, the multiverse works in mysterious ways.
Or god friends, friends of gods. Friends of gods hold grudges for their gods that are friends.
True. The cults that spring up can be rather fanatic.
At this point, an Enclave attendant, anonymous and impeccably dressed, opens the door and looks to you all before wordlessly gesturing out.
Oh, you're
That's
gonna love this part. Or you'll hate it. We'll find out. Let's go!
Oh boy, who is this one's name?
I don't think they have names.
Yeah, I think Siri just looks at the person and then looks at Crow. We don't ask that here.
Oh, it's one of those things. Okay, well then, through the door then.
And you are brought through Enclave HQ, a labyrinthine building with soaring arches and beautifully intricate architecture and almost unlimited passageways and balconies and chambers and venues populated entirely by faceless attendants all dressed in gray. The building itself only decorated in gray with endless splashes of color from other agents like yourselves. Beautifully foreign, dramatically decorated. They all look like they've come from every distant vision of your mind. And almost all of them, with some exceptions, will either politely nod, wish you good luck, some wave jovially, some scowl as you pass. But eventually you are brought through to the teleportation chamber, a small room with rounded corners at where the wall meets the ceiling, and 3 glowing panels on the floor. A disembodied voice speaks into all of your ears. Agents, please take your places atop the telepads.
A sultry voice telling me to step on a pad. Oh, this is new. And he's gonna immediately walk forward and stand proudly on a pad.
Yeah, I think it's magic, but just shake it off.
Or embrace it. We'll go and stand on one.
And as you take your positions, you feel your bodies dissociate. Starting with your toes, a tingling sensation crawls through you, a hot, icy hot, cold sensation that leaves numbness behind until it hits your eyes, and the world explodes into color, and there's nothing. Until suddenly the sensation leaves you in an instant, and you find yourselves in a dusty and low-ceilinged room. It's very dark. In this case, Crow and Siri can see well. Danyel is almost blind in here. And it's stuffy, but there's still this kind of like a night air smell that still permeates, despite the fact that the air is not moving very well in here. Both Siri and Crow would see that this chamber, it's tall enough to stand in, but not comfortably so, has a couple of little like tight passages leading out of it, and seems to be filled with a combination of rags, low pallets, decorated urns, and like a series of rough carvings on the walls. Immediate actions, starting with Crow.
I think first thing Crow's gonna be like, "Hello, is Ors you here?"
And one of the piles of rags stirs. The old man unfurls himself slowly. His face is as craggy as the walls of the chamber. His wrinkles are so deep, it's hard to tell where they stop. And his eyes are 2 tiny slits, with one of them missing entirely. You can see that his gangly hair kind of covers his body haphazardly, and his facial hair hangs much lower than even his feet on the ground, pooling in like a little spool on the ground. He is filthy and wears only rags, and his hands and limbs are skeletal.
Crow probably be a little taken aback by that. Howdy, Mr. God Ors, sir. We're here to help.
I am grateful for it. Actions from Siri and then from Danyel.
Yeah, Siri's just gonna kind of stare at this guy. It's not really her cup of tea here. This guy's a little freaky. And she's gonna look at him, kind of go, "Yes, we're also glad to be here. Excuse me," and she'll turn around.
Before
And
she turns
then
around, by the way, she could not help but notice the fact that it looks like he has never cut his fingernails, and they hang on the ground like his
no, you just said that to upset me personally.
beard.
Okay. Gross. Oh God. Okay. Taking a minute to compose herself, she will turn around. And can she see out from where she's currently standing?
Okay, her eyes are good enough that she can tell where there's more and less light coming in. And so you can see from her position, the left-turn passage seems to generally lead in the direction of outside.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can get a vantage point real quick, and she'll start to step her way outside.
Absolutely. Immediate actions from Danyel.
All right, so he is totally blind in this scenario, right?
Maybe not blind, but close to it. Like he can see shapes moving, and he of course hears the voice. He knows roughly where Siri, Crow, and Ors all are.
Fantastic. So I have the scanner, and it says it projects a magical light. Can I use said light, not even just like at the magical bit, just as a light source at short range?
Ooh, clever. I'm going to say yes, but it's quite temporary, just a couple of seconds at a time.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, I get to be that annoying person. All right, he's gonna flash that light just for the quick couple seconds.
A dim but good light fills the room, enough that you can take a full picture of what the other two have already seen with their high sensory stats.
Fantastic. Then he is going to take the sensible route and follow Siri into the sunlight to be able to see something for longer than 2 seconds.
Indeed. This leaves Crow in the room with Ors. What would Crow like to do?
I think I'd ask Oris, like, you got a light around here? You live in the dark?
Ors doesn't respond to this, but says, "Are you uncomfortable?"
No. It's just a bit odd, I guess.
Ors doesn't seem to have an answer to this. Instead, he starts to fold himself back into the little rag pile on the ground.
Well, you just stay right there then. I'm gonna go check on my mates.
As you do so, Ors says, "I shall, until I move, until time moves me."
Indeed.
Crow follows. Siri and Danyel hear that comment, given that it's quite quiet in here and there's a good amount of echo. But you've passed out through this, like the leftmost passage from the room you teleported into another room. This one has a slightly higher ceiling. It's a good deal longer. It has like a large table in the center, completely carved of stone with basic stone seats on either side. It doesn't look like a lunch table or anything. Maybe definitely not a mass table because this is nowhere near Christian here, but something kind of comparable to that, a place where maybe a congregation could gather. It also has a couple of stone windows that look out across the dusty crag beyond. It's incredibly arid here. Like there's almost 10% humidity, maybe even less. And additionally outside, like I said, it is evening coming. So the last rays of sun are starting to shoot across the horizon, but they are mostly blocked by surrounding mountains, meaning that it's already quite dim outside. Immediate actions from Siri, and then from Danyel, and then from Crow.
Yeah, I think Siri just kind of turns to Danyel and goes, "You'd think for a god of fate he'd take it into his own hands a little bit, don't you?"
One would think, but again, fate works in mysterious ways.
But he is fate. He can work in whatever way whatever. And she'll look out the window and see if she can see an army of people marching towards them.
No army yet, but the angle from this window is not grand. So you see a good portion of the out, like the yard out in front, but not all of it. And also that glance of the yard out front is quite grisly. There's quite a few desiccated bodies out there. Vultures and jackals gather, and there are a number of large crucifixes stood prominently. I just said it wasn't Christian, but crucifixion was practiced all over the medieval and ancient world, and this place is no exception.
Can she see any of the crows that are maybe flying or maybe look like they want to fly?
No crows, but birds of like carrion birds.
Okay.
Yeah. So you said flying, not flying, but look like they want to fly. Is that what you said?
I would ideally one that's already flying, but if there are none that are flying because they're all too busy, maybe one
Yes,
that
there
would
there
maybe
is
fly
there is
too.
one that is flying, currently hovering over one of the crucifixes.
Okay, can I cast viewpoint on that bird?
Yeah, absolutely. How do you want to lead into it?
Um, I think this is gonna actually be kind of difficult for Siri because she usually viewpoints like people or
People.
intelligent life forms.
Or monsters,
Or monsters, but all the monsters that she usually viewpoints are like at least slightly intelligent. So I think she's like looking at this bird and just goes, "Oh gosh, bird, 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 chirp, chirp, bird, chirp, bird, 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 bird," and tries to see if she can just think like a bird. Birds don't really think that much.
As Siri is saying this under her breath, Daniel would definitely hear it. Before we finish that action, actions from him, either in response to or doing his own thing beyond that.
At first, he's definitely going to be like sketching this long. He seems like a ritualistic table.
A congregation table, let's call it.
Gotcha. He's going to be sketching that at first in his book, and then hear Siri start talking about bird, 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 chirp, and he's just going to, Miss Siri, are you all right?
I need concentration, silence. Bird, 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 chirp, chirp, tweet, tweet, bird.
This is actually a perfect opportunity for Crow to come in, ironically enough. What would Crow like to do?
So Crow sees Siri doing magic things. Well, I'm gonna head on outside. Think we should try and slow him down? I don't know. And yeah, head outside to see what he sees.
Certainly. The exit is like you could climb through a window, but judging by the light, there's an exit in the next room over as well. So presumably passing through the door to that and then out onto the yard itself.
Mm-hmm.
As Crow emerges, a couple of things he immediately notices. First of all, there's some like low scrub around here, but there aren't any big trees. There's a lot of rock formations, but the yard out in front of the temple is not huge. Like it's maybe half a soccer pitch. So big, but not huge. The temple itself from the outside is completely nondescript. It looks like a series of like 10 or 11 holes in the wall with all of the interior stuff not being like visible nor descript. And the holes are very roughly cut. There's, as mentioned, only one path down from here, though there is like the rock around is climbable. It's definitely not climbable by an old man. Also, he would also see the carrion that are gathered in the yard. You see a number of like the smaller dog-like, probably jackals, are looking up with their ears perked towards you, and some of the birds have flown away. You hear a hoarse guttural from the like above the path, like the exit that you came from, and you can see that there is a large buzzard there that is carrying some nasty body part in its mouth.
Reminds me of home. And so we've got like a large sort of pitch ahead of me, right? Like a empty-ish area, but then it slopes down. Is that right?
So here, I'll actually do like a quick map for you. It's really rough though, and hopefully my light doesn't blot it out. So if you can see this like little crescent thing, imagine that as being like the cliff wall. Then there's the pitch here, and then there's one path up from here. The you exited from about here, meaning that the path is directly next to you, meaning that you don't actually have a great vantage to look down it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Then yeah, I would basically go around so that I could try and look down it and see kind of what the lay of the land is.
Absolutely. Before we catch up with Siri, jumping back to Daniel, do you have any follow-ups after inquiring to Siri?
And if she's just still doing her bird speech, he's gonna have like a subsection of notes about each person he's with, and immediately under Siri, and there's Siri, and then he's written clearly magically powerful. Next note down, may have an unhealthy obsession with birds? Question mark.
Indeed.
Needs further study.
Does Daniel have any follow-ups after writing this down in his notes?
Let's see, if I could use my book bag, which is we reskin that as the inside of my suit, can he pull out a book, because it holds many mundane books on topics relevant to certain current circumstances.
Yep.
Could I pull out a book on fortifying defensive positions?
Yeah, you could absolutely pull out a book on that. That's very easily done.
Fantastic.
Do you want to make it even more specific and talk about earthworks? Because like otherwise, you're not really in a position to quarry stone here.
True. Yeah, I was just thinking like generic defenses to set up, but yeah, with a book on earthworks and how to like, I guess, defend a mostly stone environment.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk about generally earthworks there. Fine. You can certainly pull out a book on that subject.
Fantastic.
And with this, what would you like to do?
He will also use his reading glasses to just flip through this book at insane speeds, and I suppose start looking around the room. And you said the entrance is the entrance out of this structure is in this room, right?
It's the next one over, but you can see it pretty much from here due to the fact that there's more light in this room than the one you ported into. This room does also have a number of small circular windows, which you could clamber out of, but would be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then he's probably just going to go around and start like writing down notes from the book and from the physical like area he's in of what best to do to reinforce said entrance and exits.
Certainly. Are you going to be walking around on the inside or the outside of the carven temple?
Probably starting with the inside.
Sure, absolutely. Two things you note just from doing a quick walk around, and I'm assuming you're staying closer to the light, which is not too bad to do because there's a decent amount of openings. First thing that you notice, this place has multiple floors. You guys are on the ground floor, but it actually climbs up to a second floor as well. It does not have a third floor from your perfunctory walk around, but your perfunctory walk around doesn't hit the entire thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Second of all, while this place is tight and cramped and kind of crappily built, it's reasonably large. We're not talking like apartment building, not even close to that. But imagine like a very like a small mansion in terms of the overall like square footage of the floor interior. So good amount of space to work with. Third note, it has in addition besides the windows, which are quite small and could be relevant, it has 3 exits. All of which are on the ground floor. You are close to the one that is closest to the path leading up the mountain. The other 2 are a little further away.
Gotcha. Okay.
Before we go further, Siri, having muttered bird to yourself for a little while, is there like a trip point where you want to hit the viewpoint for real, or do you want to build to it a little more, or do something else?
I think the reality of it is that she's trying this bird thing for a really long time and then realizes birds don't think about being birds and then just
Indeed.
tries to actually just imagine what it would be like to think like a bird and see like a bird. And
Yeah.
like maybe she that's too goofy. I'm gonna save that for somebody else. But yeah, I think eventually she stops muttering bird and that's when she gets it actually.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. In this case,
Yeah.
the viewpoint snaps over to the flying buzzard, which has, since the point where you first saw it, moved down and down and down to the point where it's about to perch on top of the crucifix that you were it was over. And
All right.
yep, hitting the viewpoint, you can see that it does have quite a good vantage point, especially given that the crucifix is near the cliff side of the flat yard in front of the temple. And you can see that the mountain sprawls down below, largely covered in scrub and loose boulder screes. But you can see that the path leading up to it kind of snakes and zigzags down in a rather sheer manner. Some parts of it are even staired rather than ramped, meaning that wheeled vehicles definitely couldn't come up. The bird also does notice Crow, who you can see is just walking to the top of this path. You can see movement down the path. It is not far, but neither is it close. If you can imagine it like if you're up here and there's like a series of like zig zag zig, you know what I mean? It would be at like the corner point of the closest zag.
Okay, I see. And approximately how long is the zag like this way?
Let me give that's a good analogy. Hard to estimate for distance precisely, but at a guess somewhere between an eighth and a quarter mile away.
Okay, so that gives us what, like, oh God, I used to be able to run a 10-minute mile. That does not actually give us a whole lot of time. That was when
They
I
are
was
going
very
uphill, and they are not running at the very least. They are marching, which is
okay.
still at speed. So
Still
you have minutes.
brisk. Okay. Siri's gonna end the viewpoint and go T minus some odd minutes 5, I want to say. Maybe 8. We don't have a lot of time. And then she'll turn around, take a deep breath, and then start walking back towards Ors.
Absolutely. Pardon, just announcing on the Enclave Discord. Okay, back into the room that you entered in from. It is again dim and stuffy, and seems darker than the amount of light that should be coming in here would indicate. Orse rises up from his rag pile. Before he rose, even your good eyes, even knowing where he was, you had trouble picking him out. But once again, he unfolds into a hunched standing posture.
Nope. And she's going to cast Veneer.
What are you veneering?
I want to veneer him to look like maybe an average looking guy for two reasons. One, so she doesn't have to look at this man. And two, so maybe if somebody else sees him, they don't immediately think that's Orse.
Sure. Now, a question. What dress and skin tone?
I think I think her primary thing is for his face to just like smooth things out of
Yep.
like fill in wrinkles or things like that. And then for dress, I think she's gonna keep it fairly simple. She doesn't want to expend like too much on this.
Yep.
But probably the same thing of like fill in like where there are rips or tears or things like that. And then like no dirt.
Sure.
Let's get rid of the dirt. Let's paint the nails.
Beard and hair?
Beard and hair, braid it. I don't know.
Sure. What
Let's
about
make
his
him presentable.
fingernails?
Okay, here's the thing with veneer. It can't really erase things.
Yes.
So I think she puts like mittens on him, like little baby mittens or something.
Goofy, but it'll at least hide them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see that as you are putting on this quick veneer, Orse slowly looks down and looks at his hands and kind of raises them experimentally and says, "Lies." Not in an accusatory way, more like a comment.
You can call them lies. You could call it necessary.
Lies are often necessary.
I have found that to be true every once in a while. I'm confused, sir. I'm gonna put it quite frankly.
Even in
You're
his painted form, by the way, he still moves at this like uncannily slow pace as he turns to look at you.
trying to figure out a way I could paint him so that it would make sense, but I don't think so.
Indeed.
Um, you're the god of fates, yes?
Not solely, but yes.
Why have you made it this girl's fate to die?
He says, "I do not make."
And how are you the god of fate if that's not the thing you do?
Water gathers in a river because the infinite tiny drops come together at the lowest point. So too flows fate. I simply pull gravity down.
You're just a big pool of fate?
No response, just a long, unblinking look.
All right then, thank you very much, sir. I will leave you be for 2 minutes and then probably bother you again. And she'll turn away so that she can get like a mental break and recompose herself and then ask him more questions.
As you're turning away, he says, "No bother." You can see that rather than descending down into the rag pile, or rather, you not see, you hear that he seems to be examining the illusion.
Can I make it like the little like the bear, like baby bear mittens where it like looked like paws?
You can make it look whatever you want.
Cool, that's what I do.
Yeah. Crow, you've come to the top of the path, and as you're doing so, you hear Siri's voice yell out something about not a lot of time, and they're on their way, something about a matter of minutes. You can see down this first zig of the path to where it rounds a bend and disappears out of sight, but you don't have an angle to see further than that. If you want to see further than that, you'd have to go to the cliff not far from you.
Yep, head towards the cliff, unslinging my sharps rifle.
Yep. And as you do so, you see them immediately. The regiment trooping up the mountain in an ordered military march. You immediately can tell that they are well armored, maybe for the region at the very least. They're wearing a lot of colorful regalia, and the positioning of it makes it blatantly obvious where Tatshar is at their front.
I want to scope down and get a real close look at everybody.
And as you zoom your vision in, you can see them more clearly. Tatshar at the front. His back is slightly too. You have like this sort of angle on him right now. He's wearing a slightly conical helmet with a plume at its top. He's wearing a broad cape that flows behind him. He is carrying in his hand a light halberd that only goes up to the top of his head and looks like he can whip it around at great speed. Behind him, the elites march in file. They seem to be divided into sets of maybe 4, maybe 8, and each set of 4 or 8 is armed similarly. For the most part, they seem to be wielding close-ranged weapons. You see a couple more small halberd-type things. You see a couple bearing shields and maces. You see those at the back trooping along with recurve bows tucked under their arms. They are all well-armored, all wearing beautiful regalia in shades of green and turquoise and orange gold.
What type of armor?
The armor is undeniably metal, or at the very least lacquer. You can see that it seems to focus primarily on the, how did I describe it? Upper body, we'll say. The head and neck are very well armored, as are the shoulders and upper arms, as is the entirety of the torso, front and back. The backs of the legs are relatively exposed, as are the forearms to some degree, or at least the underside of the forearms. And so too, you can see that the tops of the legs are very well armored, but like I said, the backs are more exposed. They seem to be mostly proficient, like just judging by how they're moving. They look like they're trained to fight in formation, but given that these are elites, they probably don't fall to pieces if they're not.
Interesting. Scanning ahead of the formation a bit, are there any scouts?
And looking ahead of the formation, yes, you see one scout. Excellent question. This one was a lot harder to pick out. They are a smaller figure. Takes you a moment to kind of focus in on them, but eventually, yes, a small figure, probably a female, very lightly armored, and in fact, blending in quite beautifully with the scrub. She, and after a moment, it's definitely a she, actually climbs up the side of the cliff wall near where the road bends, rather than tromping up the road with the others. And you can see that it's almost as though maybe her clothing or maybe a layer of magic across her camouflages itself newly when she touches the new surface.
Well, that one sounds dangerous. Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. I definitely don't want to lose track of it now that I've seen her. And just like tracking her with the rifle for now.
Absolutely. Now, she is coming up to about to crest the ridge onto the final stretch leading up to the temple. She's ahead of the group, but isn't dashing out ahead of them. And as soon as she crests the ridge, she tucks herself into the scrub and you lose sight of her, though you do know pretty much exactly where she is, judging by her speed. Before we go further, let's go back over to Danyel. Danyel has, at this point, thoroughly checked the, at least done his perfunctory walk around. Some things of note. The stone that this temple is built into is almost completely solid. It would be very hard to shift it. However, the ground out front is quite soft and cracked. It's like dusty sand or like cracked dirt. So there's some potential there. Judging by your book, typically with earthworks, one of the best things that you can possibly do is make ditches and mounds. Like that by itself is going to make a lot of difference. But that also takes a lot of manpower to do, especially in a short period of time. You also have the possible potential of sealing certain entrances. Though, of course, if you do seal entrances, then they just wait outside and maybe get more reinforcements, and then you're screwed in a couple hours rather than immediately. So what are you thinking? And what other actions would you like to take, if any?
How many entrances? You said there were 3?
There are 3 main entrances, and then there are 8 odd windows.
Okay.
And the windows are quite small.
Okay. Can I go up to Crow and like gather the information that he has gathered from just scouting out the troops?
Absolutely. You can jaunt outside and quickly go over to join Crow if you'd like.
Fantastic. My good Crow, what what sort of soldiers are we looking at?
Heavily armored. Mostly just got melee weapons, though. Though there's a couple of archers in the back. Probably have to take those ones out. There's a scout hiding in the brush over there. I'm thinking of taking her out. I don't want her to get too close. She's got some kind of a camouflage magic. I'm worried she'll get too close to our ward.
Oh, she has camouflage magic, you say? Can I spot her with my scanner at this range? Or is she
This
too
is
far?
quite far for the scanner. The way Crow's indicating it, she's like almost all the way down this first section of path before the bend, so she'd have to get much closer before your scanner could hit her.
Gotcha. And at that point, she'd probably be within fighting range anyway. Okay. Fantastic. You said there's only a couple of archers?
Yes.
All right, so the windows won't be too much of a concern. We'll just have to not stand by them.
Now, Daniel, I should note, from this vantage point, you can see the troops, but you can't tell anything about them. You just know they're where they are. And you did hear Siri's call when you were tromping around the building, and she said, oh, we have a couple of minutes. And judging by the rate at which they're going, which is not slow, even though they're marching uphill in heavy armor, her estimate is probably about right. Anywhere from like 5 to 8 minutes at this point, probably more like 3 to 6.
Gotcha. How quickly could I seal just one entrance?
Using what?
That's a fantastic question. I don't really have tools.
This could be something to also mention to Crow, given that he seems to be a little more brawny, if nothing else.
My good friend Crow, I have found 3 entrances/exits to this building, and I'm thinking we could seal just one of them to allow our enemies to potentially be funneled into a kill box per se. I have read about it quite extensively in this book about earthen defenses, and I'm thinking if we seal just one entrance, they could be funneled into a kill box, and if they happen to overwhelm us, we can grab Orson and get out the back entrance and just start running.
I'm familiar with the concept, and I've got the firepower.
Fantastic. Do you think you would be, perchance, able to procure a tool to seal one of said entrances?
We could take a look around. And I think, so we said we've already established that crucifixion happens here, which would imply that there would be hammers and iron nails and wooden planks.
Absolutely.
Presumably.
Well, immediately you notice that such things are not in the outer yard. It takes a brief glance to see that. So they're presumably in the temple structure somewhere.
All right. So, yeah. Well, let's find some tools then. But I'm going to still keep an eye on that brush and see if I get a chance for my shot. Because I don't trust that scout.
How long do you want to wait for that? And when do you want to give up and move back to the temple to try to look around?
I think I would just give it a minute, see if they move, see if I get that shot. But I'm not going to wait too long because we clearly don't have much time.
Daniel, do you want to leave ahead of Crow to try to look for a potential tool inside of there? Or do you have other things that you want to try?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to go look for a tool. I figure the scanner would probably be helpful in that situation.
And if nothing else, you actually have a much better idea of where it might be, given that you've already walked around a good chunk of the building and didn't see one. So there's only so many places it could be, given that there definitely would be such tools here. As Daniel is walking off, Siri, actions from you from here. You've had your conversation with Ors and passed out into that little congregation room.
Yes, I am trying to see if I should focus on the thing I should probably focus on or the thing I want to focus on.
The infinite struggle.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the thing I should focus on, and then hopefully that'll buy me enough time to do what I want to do. She is going to go back upstairs, and at this point, can she see the troops coming a little better?
She cannot. The angle is not good for her. She'd have to go outside. Are you looking through your bird to do that?
If I still can, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll let you get one more glimpse through
Yeah,
before it goes off. Yeah, sure.
that
In
would be
that case,
rad.
yes, you would be able to see the troops coming up, though the camouflaged one that Crow was mentioning, you would have zero idea
Yeah,
of that.
that's fine. Can I see the Princey man?
There is a figure at the head of the column, almost certainly him. You can't make
Okay.
out perfectly, but you can see something.
Okay. Okay. Trying to figure out how to do it. Okay. Uh okay. We're gonna make a prototype and then we'll come back and revise, I think is what we're gonna do. So I
Yeah.
would like to make a prototype uh him. I would like to make a prototype illusion of that man.
Yep.
It's not gonna be perfect because I can't see his face, but that's okay. It's just for
Yep.
now.
So just a basic
And
phantasm just to like work off of.
yeah, basic phantasm. I upgraded my phantasm when I leveled up to make it a little bit solid, so I'm gonna do
Yep.
that. Make it mostly look like him. The face is gonna be wrong. That's fine for now. And then I want to veneer my fan to look like whatever weapon he has.
Oh, okay. So in this case, hard for you to make out exactly what it is, but you know it's a pole arm, and that's kind of hard for your fan.
Is there a broom and duct tape in the house?
Not duct tape, but after foraging around for not too long, you do find a plank of wood, possibly used in a crucifix at some point, as well as no duct tape, but a nail.
I'll go for it. I have two fans, so I can waste one on this stupid idea. I'll try to open it like a little bit so it gets like the
Yep.
effect of it being open, but it doesn't ruin the can you give me a minute? Sorry. Uh so it doesn't ruin the illusion of it being like a pole, and then
Yep.
try to strap it together and have the illusion person
Sure.
hold
I
it.
don't know how attached Siri is to her fan, but if she is attached to it, then I'm sure it is not fun having to put a nail through the poor thing.
She's got two, and she put them in goo that would incinerate them. I don't think she's
Lovely.
too worried about it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
she seems like the sort who wouldn't really give much of a shit. In this
Yeah.
case, actually, while she's putting this together, this would be when Daniel, you said you were starting to come back in to hunt around. You would actually see Siri with two of the things that you and Crow had talked about, namely wood and nail.
Siri, where did you find those? I've been scouring this place for plank and nail.
And in this
It's
case,
just
Siri, with her good eyes, would have spotted them in one of the darker rooms.
it's just in the house. Just over there. Do you want more?
If you have them, then yes. If you can
Uh,
see in the darkness, I cannot see nearly as well as you apparently.
please hold this man, and she's going to push her guy towards him,
You are
and then go
given
get one.
it almost is like one of those blow up lawn ornaments of a like very nondescript, almost Sims like figure that has just like a mush of colors and is light as a balloon.
Oh, well, I would rather not like to learn about what this is for, but okay, I will hold it for you.
And then
Siri
she'll go
grabs
get
a
him the
handful
wood.
of materials and come and chuck them back onto the congregation table or something for him.
Right, I would like my man back, please. Thank you.
Here is your
Put
man.
Pluck.
him down.
And Daniel, this has
Uh,
given you the wood and nails. No hammer yet, but it has those first two.
Are there any loose rocks around me?
Yes, there's a decent number, and there were even more just outside, and you're close to the entrance.
Fantastic. I will just grab like a good fist-sized one.
Yeah.
Some of the planks and nails, and go to the second entrance. That's like the least direct out of the other two entrances, and just start like making a makeshift barricade.
Bonkety bonk. Yeah, that's definitely doable. Crow, you've been hanging out. I don't know if you've been counting seconds in your mind or anything like that, but it seems like something he might do. That's what I say. But we'll approximate to it's about been half a minute past, no sign. Sometimes the brush twitches or moves, but it's almost invariably the wind.
I'd like to scan upward. So they're going up this path. Is there like a sheer cliff face on one side,
Yes.
I'm assuming, and like drop on
Absolutely.
the other side, I'm assuming?
Exactly.
Okay. On the top of the cliff face, are there any like loose looking rocks hanging out above the column that's approaching?
The stone is solid, but there's plenty of cracks in it.
Hmm.
There's no like perfect haha squish everyone sort of thing, but there's plenty that you could shoot out and make a noise.
Yeah, I'm hoping to slow them down, like something to get some rocks in the path at the very least, if not drop some on their heads.
Nothing big enough to cover the path, unfortunately.
And I don't see the scout. Man, that worries me. I think I'm gonna back off for the moment. And say, "Hey, did you get those entrances sealed up?"
As you make your way back over, Danyel is working.
He's going like full like caveman and just bonking these nails through some really dry planks. He's broken a couple and he's real frustrated, but he's getting there. He's getting there.
Yeah.
He's also definitely scribbling down as many notes as he can about better barricades and bringing tools with him on his next mission.
Yeah, I think I'd sling my rifle and start helping, but I'm gonna keep an eye on the path, like glancing back regularly and really keeping an eye out for that scout, because I know she's coming.
Danyel would notice after all of 15 seconds that Crow is, if not nervous, then at least jumpy and distracted. He keeps looking over his shoulder.
My good man, is that scout you mentioned earlier still out there?
Yeah, I was gonna try and take a shot at her, but slipped away.
Scouts can be tricky in any universe, especially when they have cloaking magic. Cloaking magic's been the bane of many past adventures of mine.
Indeed, feels like cheating. Yes, me.
Yeah. If you're going to hide,
it's not cheating if you're good at it.
Siri says this from out of a window.
Okay, look, you are very clearly skilled in the arcane art, so you saying if you're good at it is a tad bit unfair to the two of us. I don't know how much arcane skill you have, good
None.
Crow, but none.
That's right.
He said it with great certainty.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Just an incredibly good shot then. But yes, no,
all skill.
So, cloaking magic is a tad bit of cheating, no matter how good you are at it.
Now, the two of you have worked on this barricade for a solid, like, Danyel for a little longer, but at this point, a solid couple minutes. And it's looking like it could definitely block a person, but many people in heavy armor who are trained for heavy combat, some with maces, maybe not.
Well,
I'll give you a moment to consider. Let's jump back over to Siri. What would she like to do with her little prop now?
With my man. Can I see his face, or ideally the back of his head any better, like the actual guy?
At this point, your viewpoint has worn off, so you'd have to leave
stick
to
my head out the window.
Just stick your head out the window wouldn't do it. You have to go all the way out and like look down the path.
Fine, I'll go all the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She passes by Crow and Danyel on her way out into the yard.
Siri, where are you going?
I need to figure out what that guy looks like.
I could tell you what he looks like. I got a good look at him.
Now is not the time to be admiring how other people look. We need to be defending.
I will be shallow whenever I would like to be. Please, Crow, describe this man. And she'll start altering.
Crow got a great look at the back of his head.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Can tell her everything about the back of his head, his armor, his cape, the way that like the color patterns, where he is armored, the sizing of it, and how he wishes to communicate this. Give me like 10 seconds of this so I have an idea of the language he's using.
Sure. I think like, well, he looks heavily armored. He had this nice flowing cloak. Got a good look at the back of his head. He's got a nice, solid, muscular neck on him, and he's got a halberd here.
There, that's good. Awesome. I get a good idea of this now. And Siri can, if nothing else, touch this up, and Crow can give feedback on it for over the course of like 10, 20 seconds, that sort of thing. To the point where she's made a good enough facsimile that, to Crow's eyes, like he knows it's bull, right? But from a distance, it might look pretty good.
All right, well, we're gonna try not from a distance with some shenanigans here, if you'll allow me.
Of course, I'll allow you. Fire away.
Okay, this is this is the order of events I would like to happen.
Sure.
Event number 1, I would like to magically float my man into the air very, very high.
He is a phantasm. You can do that.
So I would like to float him into the air.
Yep.
I'd like to float him.
Just awkwardly T-posing, not quite, but like awkwardly holding the exact same position.
So here's my hope. I'm just gonna describe it now. I have +2 luck and I am banking on that so hard. I want to float this man into the air and hopefully I want so sorry, I can keep it together. I want to try to viewpoint all of the guards at the same time so they don't see the real guy, and I want to put my fake guy next to the real guy.
I think you know how this is gonna go. You're gonna Gmod this motherfucker in to the head of a column after simultaneously hitting all 20 without seeing them?
Really want it to work, and I know it won't, but it'd be so funny if I could do it. Okay.
Well, let me put it this way. If you're starting to zoom this dish over, like, towards the column, then as you are doing so, you can see it get frickin' pierced by multiple arrows as it's coming in.
I sort of nod to myself and go, I'm going to do something else now.
That was fucking glorious, though.
Would we have seen that?
Yes.
She's gonna
Blatantly.
be
Comes outside.
Just imagining the phantasm like a deflated balloon.
Comes outside, hovers a shitty mannequin, gets shot to pieces, explains nothing, leaves. Wow, that's amazing. Now, before we go further with Siri, my face hurts. Crow and Daniel, after observing this, any other actions you guys would like to take? Your barricade is still at the point where, yeah, it could hold a normal person out of a door, but a bunch of trained military men might be rough.
Is there any like heavy furniture nearby?
Almost all the furniture you have seen has been literally built out of the stone of the cliff and therefore cannot be moved. You have seen some like urns that have been inside. You've seen like the rag piles, such as the one that Ors himself was in.
Man, even that big table you mentioned. That's
Yep,
like...
that is literally a solid slab of stone carven out of the cliff.
Oof. Well,
that's unfortunate.
I don't know if this one's gonna work.
You said there's piles of rags?
Yeah, lots of those.
Can I use my book, the pulling out of my suit jacket once more, a book on like sailor's knots?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop that open and just start grabbing rags to see if I can like tie maybe the barricades together, tie them to the arch, or hell, even tie urns together to secure something in the barricade.
Tying the barricade to the door with rags, that's out the frame with rags. That's actually very doable, and that will, if nothing else, keep it in place better. Still going to be bashed through relatively quickly if they start bashing, right? But it will at least not just be tippable, yeah? So tying that up, that's totally doable. The urns themselves are not really conducive to tying. They don't have any like loops or anything that you can put something through and make a proper knot with. You also notice that the urns themselves are full of very old desiccated viscera, which does not actually smell, kind of disconcertingly so. The rags, you also note after tying a couple of them, are definitely the clothes of past condemned people.
Daniel's immediately gonna realize he didn't bring any sort of hand cleaning material and just start wiping his hands off very quickly on his suit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very much
And
does not like getting filthy.
And Crow, what would you like to do?
So we were outside while we were doing this, right? Barricading from the outside or from the inside?
I would say that you'd be just outside.
Right. Okay. So just glancing up, you said this was like at least 2 stories.
The building that has been carved into the crag is about 2 stories, but the crag carries on from there another 2 or 3.
Okay. But is there like, there's no roof, right? It's just crag straight up.
There is some shelving to it. Like it's a textured face. You can think of it kind of Grand Canyon-ish in terms of the striation of the rock, though unlike something like the Grand Canyon, it's very jagged and cracked rather than being kind of smooth, you know? And so for someone like Crow, he could climb this shit easily. Frankly, if you weren't dealing with a decrepit old man with fingernails down to his ankles, he would be able to do it too.
Interesting.
He's really not helping much, is he?
Nope, he has. You have not seen him since you left the room he was in.
Well, I can get up to the high ground. I'll have better shots. Maybe we could stash the old man up there. I could probably carry him.
Well, I'm not very much help in any sort of physical activities, and I'm not even sure I can be good with combat, but I can certainly read up on it.
Well, you do that. And I'm gonna go try and find Ors.
Absolutely. This takes you back inside. He's easy to find. He hasn't left the room he was in. Though you can see that this time he's standing up and he looks very different. It would probably take you off guard for a second, but the goofy ass mittens that are there in place of his fingernails would definitely give away the cause of this.
You've been magicked, I see. Listen, Mr. Ors, how do you feel about hiding up on the roof there?
Before we go further with this conversation, let's catch up to Siri in case she also talked to Ors before this.
Siri was intending on going and talking to Ors.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah, she would march into the room and go, "What the fuck was that? You're supposed to be I know you just said that that's not how fate works, that you don't choose it. But surely when it comes to your own safety, you could let my bullshit work." Okay. So fate pools on you like all the water goes to the river, goes to the pond or something like that.
Does not pool on me. I am gravity.
You are the hill that the water goes down?
He again shakes his head. No, child. I am gravity.
Make me fly.
He leans his face uncomfortably close to you. And he says, I will gladly do so if you assure me that you are sure.
I need more context for this. Okay, so she takes a step back. First of all, step back.
He leans backwards.
I need to understand why these people are mad at you. They think you caused this, but you're saying that's not how you work. So then why is she suffering? Why is this man angry?
And again he looks to you and says, I do not blame you for not understanding. I do not blame them for not understanding. It can be a painful thing, gravity, and yet it must be pulled down always, no matter what is in the way. The force moves. It crushes that which impedes it.
I Actually, I do think I'm getting it a little bit more now. I mean, I don't think I could word it any better than you are, which is frustrating, but I think I'm maybe understanding it. Certainly don't want to fly, like you're saying. That sounds like the thing that will kill me. Okay.
What happens to the water after it passes through the stream out to the ocean?
Just becomes part of the ocean.
And then
And evaporates.
it rises to the sky to be rained down again.
I wouldn't call what you do fate, then.
Do not think it is the best word for it either. But so I am titled. I accept this as part of my own fate.
And if we didn't have gravity, we'd sort of just fly up into the sky and then die. Crashing into each other and all these sorts of things.
He doesn't respond. For the
Okay.
first time, he doesn't meet your eye.
I will do my best, sir, but you are not very nice to me. And then she's gonna leave, I guess. I am so... This man makes me so uncomfortable. Okay.
Before we get to Crow's conversation, and then we'll catch up again with Siri, let's talk to Danyel. Danyel, Crow has moved off to talk to Ors. What would you like to do? Siri is at the same time coming out of that same chamber looking flustered and on edge at the very least.
So, Danyel doesn't have very much in the way of combat. But he also
Indeed.
realizes that the feelings of his teammates are important. So he is going to walk up to Siri and be like, Miss Siri, are you quite alright?
That's a good question. I am, is how I would put it. If I'm honest, it's a lot easier to empathize with the guy whose, girlfriend is dying versus the guy who freaks me out.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But if we don't save him, then we fly into the sky and then we all die. It's basically what I'm understanding. It's a metaphor and a bad one at that, but it's the one he gave me.
What?
From what? My understanding is that he's not really the god of fate. He's the god, he's just is the physical embodiment of the concept that things are good or bad. And if he doesn't exist, then things aren't anything or something like that. I don't really quite understand it. This is my theory from his nonsense.
Yes, that makes sense. He is simply the force that drives fate forward. He is,
yes.
He is the horse that pulls the cart, but he does not decide the direction in which the horse goes.
Beautifully put.
Thank you. That makes more sense.
Yes, and I assume his magic thing that he could give us is freedom from fate, and then we die, which is why I assume if he dies, then everybody dies. Because then everyone's free from fate or something like that. That's my current theory.
Oh. Yeah, that sounds not very good for any universe.
Hopefully it would just affect this one.
Hopefully, but the gods and their powers are all sorts of weird. Did he give any reason on why this man's love is dying? Or is it...
No. He is just the embodiment of it. I don't think he chooses. I don't think he knows how things are chosen, to my knowledge. I mean, you could ask. Looks like Crow's gonna go ask him something. So, could join
Speaking
him.
of which, let's make sure we all catch up in time and jump over to Crow briefly before continuing this conversation. Pardon. Crow.
Sure.
You've again approached Ors, who is again standing there, kind of uncannily still.
Well, these folks are going to be here any minute, and we haven't been able to secure the entrances. Maybe we could get you up to the roof. What do you think?
He slowly looks up at the ceiling and says, I will avail myself.
Is there an easier way up than climbing? I could probably carry you, but if you got a ladder, it'd be a mite easier.
I do not own any possessions.
Well, do they have one around here? Do you
He
ever go
considers.
upstairs?
His brow furrows slightly and says, No, I have only come to this place a matter of your days ago.
All right. Well, guess gonna do this the hard way then. And he's gonna tell him like, follow me. And he's gonna try and find the easiest way up.
Yeah. In this case, Daniel and Siri, your conversation at this point is slightly interrupted by Crow coming out of the dark chamber with Ors following behind him, slow and shuffling and methodical.
It's like Yoda walking where he has like the cane and hops forward.
Except it's his fingernails. No, he doesn't do that. He just kind of shuffles.
Can I change his gloves to look like gauntlets so they're slightly more threatening?
You can definitely do that. Okay. More than the little bear mittens. Like
I like them, but I think it's probably bad for the scenario.
Indeed. Daniel and Siri, do you wish to continue your conversation?
Daniel is gonna, as Orin passes by, he's gonna be like, my good sir, Mr. Orson, are there any weapons or magical knowledge in here that would help our combat capabilities that you know of?
Ors looks turns very deliberately, as he always does, and looks to Daniel. Daniel, this would be Daniel's first time seeing his illusory, made-up guys. It's in some ways more uncanny because of how slowly and almost robotically he moves sometimes.
I don't think Daniel would have seen his other form because it would have been pitch black, right?
You did light up the room very briefly.
Oh, that's
so
true.
You did see him for like a couple of seconds.
Gotcha.
To which he says, I have never considered such matters. To fight is not my domain.
Well, we're trying to fight to save your existence, so I suppose start considering?
I wish I had greater insight to provide.
Okay.
He considers for a moment, and then looks to Siri and says, if you decide you are sure, I will provide. But I will not do so unless I am told to with unwavering certainty.
What if... Would you do it to anybody who asked?
With unwavering certainty, yes.
What about someone who wanted to kill you? But was very certain about it.
I would offer them if they wished for it.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, brace for whatever's going to happen, because I think they're going to be here in, what, a minute at this point? And she tries to see.
No visibility yet. However, Crow, having got outside ahead of Ors, you can take a quick scan, and there does seem to be something kind of near to your entrance that looks possible. It's like not a sheer wall, it's like a steep, gravelly slurry that if you climbed up, it would get you to a nice finger hold, and then from there, get you up onto a ledge.
All right. I think I see a way up. Mr. Ors, could maybe hop onto my back. I'll try and scramble on up there.
He climbs out, or rather shuffles out, and says, climb is somewhat difficult for me.
Yeah, I'll just... You ever ride a horse before? Just go on.
And you see that Crow, fireman carries the god onto his back. Crow, he is uncannily light. He weighs probably less than 50 pounds.
And don't eat much, do you?
I do not eat.
That explains a lot.
I
Trying
hope
to
to explain
ramble
all I
on.
can, he says very literally in response. And as Crow starts to climb, his legs like slipping out from him on the gravel thing once in a while, skinning his knees, pulling up. Even though this guy's light, it's still really freaking hard. As he's struggling with that, Danyel and Siri, actions from you.
Would Danyel have seen any sort of weaponry or magical tomes on his walk through the first floor?
He was seeing some amount of weaponry, mostly pertaining to executions. He's seen nails, for example. He saw a heavy and rather gorily stained executioner's sword. He knows it's such because it doesn't have a point. It's just like a big chopper.
Flat, yeah.
Yep. So he saw one of those in a position of honor. Looking around a little more at one point, he had seen a couple of like rather nasty embalming tools that you could probably take someone's eye out with. But in terms of like proper weapons, the executioner's sword was the best one.
Okay. How big is this executioner's sword?
It's a two-hander.
Okay. I am going. Well, would I be able to wield it at all?
Do you want to try?
Sure. Yeah. He's gonna grab. Is it flat down or flat up?
It's hanging on a little bracket, so he would have to take it off the bracket.
That's fantastic. Yeah, he's just gonna go ahead and like reach up and
Yeah.
lift it very gingerly.
So while Daniel's not a huge guy, he doesn't sound like he's like unfit. Is that correct?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So he
got a
can
fairly
lift this
meaty
thing.
build. Yeah.
I will say, if he were swinging this thing around, it would be very tiring very fast. Swords are not heavy in general, but even a relatively lightweight sword is going to get tiring to swing around. And this one is very heavy for a sword. You know, it's meant to let gravity do all the work and just chop, right? And so because of that, we're talking like an 8 or 9 pound sword. So not bad to carry around. You could totally do it, but swinging it more than a couple times is going to tire you out fast.
All right, I got a second idea. He's gonna put the sword back.
Yep.
You said there's a bunch of nails in this room?
Oh yeah, tons. Siri
I-
grabbed a bunch out for you guys.
Can I grab some of those nails and like bend them into each other to make caltrops and scatter them across where that entrance part is?
No, absolutely. I mean, you can absolutely get a couple of these down. With like you'd have to use like a. Actually, you have some embalming tools, so you could like there'd be like a caliper in there that you could use to bend.
Yeah.
Certainly. So yeah, because of that, you could make. Given that these guys are coming up pretty soon, you could definitely get like a dozen of these things whipped together. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As Daniel gets industriously to work with these, what would Siri like to do? She sees him test out the sword, grab some nails, start bending.
She might grab something. No, that's not her style. She's not gonna get anything. We're just gonna go in with a fan and a mirror and nothing.
Yeah.
I have an idea of something like now is not the right time to do it, but then I don't know when would be. I think she's just gonna. Okay, here's what I think she's gonna do actually, because I think this. Um, she's gonna try to viewpoint, Forth see
Okay.
if she can do that.
As you viewpoint Ors, there's a moment of disorientation because he's
Oh, not
bouncing
Ors. I'm
along.
so sorry. I am so sorry. I meant the prince. I meant Tasher.
Oh, Tatcher. Pardon me. She cannot currently see him, but she does know where he is. And as you rightly
Yes.
pointed out last time we played, that is good enough. And so in this case, it's not going to be an immediate thing, but given that she's much more comfortable with viewpointing on humans, I'm not going to give you too much shit for it. So in this case, after a couple of moments, you would be able to tap into him.
Okay. What do I see first of all? Let's start there.
He is 2/3 of the way up the final path. The temple is coming into sight, as are some of the crucifixes.
Okay, great. And then second. Okay, this is what I am hoping is the case, and I don't think it is, but we're gonna see. I imagine that he is somebody who is currently like kind of like maybe even physically a little blinded by this emotion that he's feeling. And basically, I'm trying to see if I can figure out what his girlfriend or wife or whoever his partner looks like in any sense. If he's thinking of her really vividly right now because he's so like filled with this like fear and
Yep.
anger that is surrounding her.
Did you end up going with that sensing perk?
I
that we were talking-
didn't.
Okay.
I ended up going with the reverse viewpoint, which
Okay. So
maybe I'll regret, but
I'm gonna have to ask you for a good deal more detail on that because he is at
Mhm.
least not currently picturing her in his mind's eye, and even if so, it would be very rare for it to be so vivid it would translate to his literal
Yeah.
vision. So, how would you like to try to elicit this information?
Okay, let's change it a little bit. I don't need to get to know exactly what she looks like. That's fine. I
Yep.
think I don't need that for my plan, but a general like idea of what maybe her like oh no, that makes it even harder for me to get
Yeah,
because I was
I
gonna
was
go
about to
for
say
vibes.
I'm
I
gonna
was
need
gonna
to
go
ask more about that too. Well, if nothing
so
else,
you
I
might
can
have to
give you
give
a
me a
little.
minute.
I'll give you a little about his field of vision right now.
Okay.
His vision is slightly obstructed by his helmet, but still he has a
Okay.
nice keen window. His eyes are laser focused ahead of him.
Okay.
You see no
Um,
hesitation, no jittering. There's no like clouding even to it. He is alert 100% at the moment.
okay. Uh, cool. What can he see? He can see the temple. He can see.
He can see a part of the temple and some of the tops of the crucifixes. Where Crow is climbing with Orse is completely obstructed to him. He'll need to get to the very top and then look straight to the right to see that.
Okay. Viewpoint, I can kind of delete things from his view, right?
Yep.
Okay, I want to kind of like with an eraser, drag an eraser over one of the crucifixes, like slowly like creeping
Yep.
down.
Absolutely.
Like I want him to be able to see it going.
And you can see that as you do so, his eyes snap to it, and your deletion ends. He countered it effectively.
Okay. I want to I'm just trying to throw him off at the moment of like
Yep.
get it so he's not as laser focused. So I want to just keep like
Trying to pick at
different
things.
things like a bird, a rock, like a specific like cloud, things like that of like just get it so he's not as like directly focused.
He snaps to like two, three, four of these before you hear him say aloud, Chartreuse! Crow also hears this call. And after a moment, you see his vision scan, and then the rock wall seems to morph to life near to him. And a small, spidery woman leaps down next to him, her camouflage dropping as she does so. She looks up at him. You can see that she is, how would I describe her? Spidery is definitely the best word. Lanky, thin, wearing very different armor from the rest. It's much more skin tight, much more like light armor, and also her back has this weird textured layer to it. She looks at him with a frown and he says, Are you doing that? She gives him a look, and you can see that it's not the sort of look you would give to a superior officer. She gives him like a rolling eyes thing. He says, Are you doing that? His column has come to a halt behind him. And she says, I do not know what you are talking about, but whatever it is, unless it is succeeding what you have asked of me, the answer is no. You can read her lips very easily as she is saying this. Normally you wouldn't have the vision, but in his case, his voice is loud enough, unlike hers, that you can hear it from your current vantage point. He is not trying
Cool.
to keep his voice down.
I want to make her mouth go away.
And as you are doing so, he says, Chartreuse! And she starts. She actually looks kind of nervous for a second. She says, What? Why are you? He says, Do not do that again. And he turns on a heel and continues to march.
Interesting. Not what I thought would happen, but good insight. Thank you. um, I want to keep the viewpoint, but I think we should go to somebody else.
Totally. Danyel, and then to Crow.
Mm-hmm.
You've been to a number of caltrops, but at this point, you hear a call from outside. You can't make out the words, unlike these two, but you hear a call, very faint conversation that's kind of obstructed by the wind, and then like a shout, and then it stops. And this is outside and a little ways down the path. At this point, you've made probably all the caltrops that you could make in the time that you have, unless you want to really push for a couple more.
Are there any living plants near us?
There's scrub.
Okay. But not any, like, fruit-bearing ones?
Definitely not.
Uh,
It's very arid, very craggy.
And you said the ground outside the temple entrance was, like, softish?
It's relatively soft, yes.
Is it soft enough for me to partially push the caltrops down so they're not as easily, like, spottable?
Definitely, but you'll need to move fast. You do have a plus to vigor, now that I think about it.
That I do, yeah. If that'll get me to hide them effectively in a speedy manner, then yeah.
Yeah, vigor's about speed, and as such, you can dash outside. Which entrance is this going to be? Is this going to be the one that you barricaded, or a different one?
No, the like front entrance where they're going to be coming up.
Sure. Oh, as in like the path?
Yeah.
If you go to the path, you'll be in full view of them.
I mean, were we really being stealthy?
Thus far, it is not clear that you have been seen. Like, no behavior. Your allies haven't indicated it at the very least.
Crap. Well, then I'll just, like, toss them out from inside the temple and just let them scatter.
Yeah, sure. They clink faintly against each other as they fall across the dirt. What would Danyel like to do from here?
And I already there was, like, I pretty much saw everything in that room with the, like, embalming tools and nails and whatnot.
Do you want to try to search further?
Yeah, I was actually going to use my catalog ability to see if I could find anything more useful or of magical power.
So what sort of more useful are we talking here? Are we talking combat useful, or are we talking other thing? You said magic, so we can sort for magic stuff, but what else?
Yeah, let's go combat, because I've got plenty of utility. But I've got, like, no combat. So if there's, like, some sort of magical combat, even, like, magical combat gear that I could take with me, I would love to try and find that.
Catalog is a ability that loves its paired action. So what's going to be your paired action for this? How are you going to initiate the ability?
Daniel's going to step in the room and just, like, drop to his knees. His book is laying out in front of him. His arms are splayed, not in, like, a prayer or reverence thing, but more like expanding his power as the objects in the room, since they are magically tidied, are going to start swirling and then just like sorting themselves into their different, like, shelves or slots or spots as this, like, almost like tornado of spectral book pages erupts from Daniel's form as they just, like, whip the objects into place.
Beautiful. Is he going to say anything?
He's gonna start whispering some arcane, like, some arcane tongue, but not anything super duper loud, because if they're wanting to be relatively stealthy, he's not gonna start screaming.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's definitely gonna be whispering arcane gibberish.
And as you do so, in the midst of, like, the rags sorting themselves by like weight and height, and the various, like, tablets on the ground starting to stack themselves up, a couple things. First of all, you do have, like, an internal ability to go through what you are cataloging, so you can kind of scan through and check things, and effectively query me to see if you found stuff and learn a little bit about it. But more notably than any of that, you hear a squawk from outside. Ah! And something from just out of the window also whizzes into your catalog to be collected. You see that the bird that was holding it, the buzzard that was holding it, flaps away from outside looking perturbed. And you see that we can assume that you've ordered these by relevance, and you were looking for combat stuff and magic stuff, yeah? So combat relevant stuff, this has turned up more than you initially found. For one, you find an old curved bladed dagger with inscriptions in its hilt. It's very, very small, with a blade no longer than the palm, like than your hand, from finger to palm tip. The other thing that you find on a potentially combat relevant front is a slightly nastier. You find a scalpel-like blade. This one is definitely part of the embalming collection. Much smaller than the curved blade dagger, but also much sharper. But lastly, in your magic pile, there's one thing, and it's what the bird dropped. An eye. A literal human disembodied eye.
Wait a minute. He was missing an eye.
Indeed.
Do I have to pick one, or can I grab all
Oh, you can get
things?
whatever you want. This isn't just a pick one thing. You've organized the room. You can take your pick.
Yeah, I'm a definitely grab the dagger and the scalpel and just very neatly tuck them away. The eye, I'm gonna pull out like a pair of gloves and like latex medical gloves and just grab it very carefully.
I'm okay with this.
And Orin and Crow have probably already gone up to the top of wherever they were climbing, right?
Yeah, Ors and Crow are climbing outside. You don't know how high up they've gotten.
Crap. Oh, this is where the memos would have come in handy. Okay, then yeah, he's gonna put that also in his suit jacket pocket and just keep it tucked away for later.
It makes a squishing noise as it descends.
Of course it does.
No.
Of course it does.
What would Daniel like to do from here? He hears a clanking of boots outside, by the way.
Oh, crap.
Am I also here? Whose boots?
Oh, don't worry. I'm gonna catch you up. He's ahead in time of the other two.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know whose boots.
Don't worry.
Would Daniel be able to like shout up to Orson and Crow as they're climbing, be like, "Hey, I found an eyeball."
If you want to shout, you may be heard by the boots.
Ah, crap, that's right.
If that doesn't matter, then do it. But if you think it's relevant, then be careful. Give you a moment to think. I can catch Crow up in time, so you have a better idea.
You know what? No, Daniel's gonna go to wherever Siri is and have his new curved dagger drawn in readiness.
Certainly. Let's jump to Crow. So, Crow, you've gotten up the gravel skid, okay. Got your fingers into the finger hold, but now you literally have a muscle up with a 50-pound weight on your back.
And baseline might. That's gonna be tough.
How tall is Crow? This is actually relevant.
6 foot.
6 foot. So he's got some more ability to get some weight up, but still, 50 pounds during a muscle up is really hard. On top of, he's also carrying gear.
Yeah. I mean, the way I'm imagining this is I'm gonna just say something to Ors like, well, hold on, and I want to unsling him, hold on by one hand, very briefly, to toss him up the ledge.
This is quite be a toss, more like a shot put from
like
your shoulder.
Heave, yeah.
You feel you hear kind of a as he thuds onto the ledge. A normal person would probably have been quite hurt by that, given that his head clacked against the cliff ledge as he was going up. But he doesn't make any sound of protest to it, and you can get up after him, your shoulders screaming in pain. But as you get to the top, finally, you can see that Ors is laying there. Like, he hasn't moved from the spot where he hit, but his eye is still open.
You all right?
He looks up at you and says, I am in the same state that I have been.
Well, all right. Just maybe go back to huddling up a little pile of rags, and we'll just take care of things.
My current lying appearance is not conducive to a pile of rags.
Right. Well, just go on, sit right there then.
This I can easily do, I believe, as he sits against the wall of the ledge that you're perched on.
Now, on this ledge, how wide is this ledge?
The ledge is fairly wide. It's got at least 15 foot of vertical or lateral movement. But in terms of how deep it is, not quite as much. You have not even 6 feet.
Okay. And is there like a wall? Like, I'm imagining there's like sheer cliff face here and another short wall here. Is that
effectively? Yeah, like a short drop off and then more complex terrain down to the ground.
But is there cover? If I were to say kneeling, say
if you were on your belly, then the lip of that you just came over would give you quite a lot of cover.
That's a pretty normal stance for a sniper, and so he's gonna go ahead and do that. So yeah, lay down, sniper stance. But I want to be okay. So if the ledge is like this, I'm imagining the path is coming up this way, and I came up here. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I want to go over
exactly
to this side to get the angle at the entrance.
You can go as far along this ledge as possible, which is not going to bring you anywhere near all the way around, but it will give you a little bit more view of the entrance path.
Yeah, and then Sharp's rifle out, scope down directly onto like the entrance, like the path, like coming up.
And Crow would be the first person to see them come into view. They haven't crested yet, but he can hear the clank of boots, and then he sees them come into sight with into his sight at least, with Tatshar at their head. Your first glimpse of Tatshar not only indicates that his front is much the same as his back, ornate, colorful, strong, and beautifully decorated. And you can see that his face, from the brief glimpse that you catch through the helmet, has a furrowed brow and a set jaw. He is also armed to the teeth. That halberd is only one of his weapons. He actually has a composite bow of his own tucked underneath, or a recurve bow rather, tucked underneath his cloak in the back, as well as multiple blades and a mace at his front.
Can I see the scout?
No.
Damn
it. But you can see the first rank or two of men behind him.
Probably not archers, though, which would be my next target besides any mage.
Absolutely. Over the next couple seconds, the archers will eventually come into view.
I think I'm going to hold and just, keep scanning with my scope.
Who are you tracking on for the moment?
I mean, mainly Tatshar, but I'm really keeping an eye out for that scout is what I'm really looking for.
Absolutely. So you're not going to be zeroed in on him. You have it kind of on him, but you're also looking. I'm guessing
you're
kind of
doing one of these.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Siri, let's catch you up. After the interaction that you had just had, what would you like to do from here?
Can I change? So what I had been doing was like deleting things out of the corner of his
Yep.
eye. I want to be deleting things so that the shape that remains is of a woman.
Oof, geez, that's so interesting. Now, obviously, that's a much more sophisticated delete than you normally would be able to get. So talk me through how you're going to do that.
I think, like I had described earlier, I was doing an eraser where I didn't mind that he saw the process of it. So I don't mind that he's seeing the process of me kind of outlining a lady and scribbling away the excess.
Okay, so it's kind of like you're going to take as much time as you need to do the erase.
Yeah, like I'm going to try to do it quickly, but I'm not going to mind it if he sees the process or anything. It doesn't have to be the cleanest thing in the world.
Absolutely. Now, in this case, you would be doing this just before Crow gets eyes on him, by the way. So this is a little bit back in time from where we just were. And the first time you do it, you can see that his eyes zoom to it. He stares. He actually slows down for the first time since you started viewpointing him. And he says, or rather, you think he says something because his face moves, but it's too quiet for you to hear him at distance.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see that his eyes flick around to the cliff. He can no longer see the camouflaged woman, Chartreuse. And then he flicks back. I want to do
another one over there.
And as you're starting to make another one, you can see that he lifts his hand. He doesn't say anything, but you can see that he lifts his hand and then turns it backwards and brings it slowly to his forehead like this, somewhat obstructing his vision.
Does it seem like he's doing it in a like self-regulating way of like, oh, like I need to take a minute, or does it seem like it's like a carefully thought out, like this is a ritual thing or like something I used to do with her?
This, and then like this.
Okay. Cool. Okay. As he's doing that, can I make the palm of his hand have a lady on it?
And you can see that as you don't get it all the way there in time, but as he brings it to his head, you can finish it off. He clenches his fist tightly, and then you can see through his eyes briefly a shocking, blatantly magical gleam form in his eyes. Your erasing is burned away in his vision, and his hand is back to normal. The moment thereafter, you feel your viewpoint forcibly ended to the point where you feel like a brief stabbing migraine in your forehead as you flick your eyes back open.
Cool. Okay, I'm nervous now. Um, I okay, this isn't gonna make any sense, but I'm gonna try saying it. I want to veneer camouflage my brain, like my mental state.
Oh, that's also a complicated one. How do you want to do that?
Yes. Uh, I think at first she goes bird. No, wait, that didn't work before. Um, uh,
More bird
But I
obsessions.
think she goes in that direction. I think she thinks about how before she veneered in a way to try to like get in the brain of a bird, and repeating bird didn't work. She just like eventually had to be like, no, birds don't think about being a bird. They just kind of have bird thought or like vibe. And so I think she tries to do that but without viewpointing. So she like closes her eyes so that she doesn't accidentally stare at a bird and viewpoint on the bird, but she closes
Yep.
her eyes and tries to like bird brain thing, and maybe they'll think she's a bird.
Now, as you are focusing internally and trying to make the magic do what you want, this would be the point when Daniel comes to your side. I believe that Siri was indoors of the temple when she was doing all of this, but
Yes,
like close to
this
an
is
entrance.
correct.
Yeah. So Daniel comes up to your side.
Mhm.
Any actions from Daniel as he rejoins with Siri? You both can hear the
Yeah.
boot steps of the men coming close.
Would I see that she's like visibly in pain?
But you would see that her brow is heavily furrowed, and just a moment of watching, it's clear that she's focusing and probably also in some amount of pain.
Gotcha. Well, if she's very visibly focusing, I'm not gonna do anything more than like an encouraging like passes I'm walking by. Just you've got this, Siri. Beat whoever it is back. Do your magic. You'll be fine. And he's gonna stand like within that first chamber, dagger ready, but not like super close to the door, enough that he could probably like maybe throw it and then bolt.
Yep.
Again, no real combat capabilities.
Certainly.
Um, but yeah, that's about all I can think to do right now. If they're at
Siri,
our
do you have
doors,
any reactions, verbal or nonverbal, to what Daniel has said, or are you continuing to just try to make the thing do the thing?
I think she drops it because she's trying to block herself out to be like camouflage, but she has other people here. They're gonna find her eventually. So I think she's like, I shouldn't be wasting my strength on this.
Yeah. And because of that, she
Uh,
would see Daniel by the door, his dagger in his hand. Would Daniel be visibly nervous at this point?
probably yeah, because he has not been to a universe where his combat capabilities have been so reduced. So this is very much out of his league, out of his normal comfort zone.
Certainly. What would Siri
So
do?
yeah,
I really want to do this idea that I have in my head, but I think it's not going to work and it's going to be wasted. Is the problem because I've had this idea for like a while, a while meaning for this session.
Yeah. While you're considering, by the way, the two of you would
Yeah.
finally, through one of the windows, see them come into sight, marching
Okay. Yeah. Screw it.
into the yard.
Okay. We're just, it's not gonna work, but we're gonna try. I have lots of arcane. So, I want to essentially make an illusion version of the metaphor that Ors was trying to explain to me. Of I
Oof.
want to have small figures of, and they don't have to be detailed, small figures of like two people dancing, like a man and a woman dancing down kind of a in a like as if it's a river but there's no river, like down into the air and like going, and some other things too. Like I think she pulls stuff from her own personal life, like or other things, and try to
You
have
blipped
them.
out for a second. Could you say from her personal
Oh,
life, like what?
so her personal, like a girl running away from a tornado, and try
Yeah.
to have those things floating through the air and join in the center into like a swirling of
And
memories,
this is going to
kind
be
of.
out in the yard?
This, yes.
Okay, so this is a fairly big phantasm, is what I'm hearing here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, coming from her personal life, this makes the visualization element of it much easier, and she can
Mhm.
start to bring it to life as things start to fall gently from the sky. Daniel would see her cast, and also out of the window, see the little spectral figures starting to dust down to the ground like little flights of snow. Any actions from him at this moment?
I'm wondering, my knowledge is power ability.
Yeah,
If I'm conjuring a booklet that temporarily conveys an entire body of knowledge, can I
and a magical
condense
effect.
that? Oh, can I condense that down to just learning about what sort of magical effects this eyeball has?
Okay, so since it's a body of knowledge, it's not going to give you as much about like a very specific thing. You could do something, for example, like I'd be open to something along the lines of like arcane archaeology, or maybe some sort of like a magical appraisement sort of deal. If you can come up with like a clever way of branding a field of study, for example, pertaining to this, that would be fine. Something to do with this specific thing, that would take some serious energy work. And if you're up to try it, you're welcome to try it, but it may not work.
I guess I'm just looking for more of how I could apply the magics of the eye to me, because like I don't want it to be like, oh, you need to put it in your own eye socket, and Daniel
Indeed.
eats it and does it wrong. So
Well,
I
let's let's talk through this for a second. Do you have any theories as to what this does?
well, I would assume it would probably give Orson a lot more power if it was returned to his skull, but that would take a lot of time and climbing to get it to him. If I can temporarily harness some of that power to help us out and then give it back to him,
Indeed.
maybe.
Now, of note, it was quite close to him, given that it was being held by a bird. So how do you think it came to be held by the bird? Like, if it gives him substantial power, then why didn't he just have it?
Huh. Maybe the other goddess took it from him?
Possible, but she wouldn't have been that close, or unless it was like a very convenient timing, in which case, why was the bird hanging around outside of the temple and not flying back with it? Remind me your intelligence stat, by the way. It's trips,
3.
right? Yeah, okay, carry on. Yeah, fire out some other ideas or thoughts that you're having here.
Could he have intentionally depowered himself for some reason and given it to the bird as like a keep this safe until I absolutely need it?
Always possible, but then again, this is definitely when he would need it. It could, as you mentioned, be something that he is deliberately keeping apart from himself, but needs to keep kind of close-ish.
I think I'm going to go with that theory, and then perhaps combining my scanner and the knowledge is power thing. He would just kind of stare at it with one hand and then have a book on appraising magical objects that he would have picked up from like a black market back alley, and just like flipping through that and scanning this thing up and down to see if he can glean some sort of utility out of it.
Now, of note, knowledge is power lets you pitch a temporary magical effect for the reader of the knowledge is power booklet. So you get to come up with a novel magical power pertaining to the field of study. And this doesn't have to be mundane. You can get pretty interesting with these. They can't be super powerful, but they can be very varied. So if you need a moment to think about it, I can catch up the other two. But if you already have an idea, then fire away with it.
Well, if he's a god of entropy, could
Oh,
Daniel
pardon. This is a power to do with the book rather than the object.
Oh,
So
well,
something
then
to do with magical identification.
Oh, then he would definitely get like one of those big like cowboy hats you always see auctioneers wear, and he would probably gain some sort of fast talking ability. I can't do that fast talking that auctioneers can do, but he might be able to do that temporarily and I suppose gain a more solid magical understanding of how to identify magical artifacts and price them out.
Well, I think that the pricing is what I'm going to focus in on because we don't want to like double up too hard on just learning the body of knowledge. But the fast talking plus something to do with pricing, that I like. And from that pricing thing, by the way, what you are holding in your hand is, if a price tag were to be put to it, more expensive than this entire nation and everything in it.
Oh, okay. All right, all right. And did I
Now
gain
you
any
said you were
sort
using
of?
your scanner, you said, right?
Yeah, probably more of just like a flavor thing of just like how I'm gaining the
Oh, I
knowledge
see,
from
I
it.
see. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but did I
And yeah.
would I have gained any sort of utility out of this of how I could apply it to the situation?
Well, two things that you immediately notice. One being that while this eye is viscera, it has like all the nasty veins and stuff connected to it. There's no
Mhm.
blood and guts. It's squishy, right? It's not pleasant, but it's not oozing. Um, it also doesn't have like any connection points to it that you notice. They're kind of neatly tied off in a similar nature to how things are embalmed around here. So putting it into your own eye socket doesn't seem super likely. Like maybe possible, but doesn't seem like the intended use case. Other thing that you immediately notice is that it does not have an iris. It's just a single pupil, which indicates maybe some degree of concentration as well as a lack of humanity to some degree. Um, Holding it in your hand, it has a similar feeling to when you click you know when you hold a laser pointer and you have to click it.
Mhm.
It gives you that sensation. That's what you initially get just on a brief inspection. Now that you have this additional body of knowledge in your mind. Before we go into more depth of that, though, I want to jump back to Crow and Siri. These two are looking outside after all, while Daniel's focusing in on this. And Crow would see Siri's illusions start to descend from the sky in their gentle little whirlwind. And as they do so, Tatchar comes to a halt, signals halt to his troops behind him, all of whom are formed up now, fully in Crow's view. Tatchar's face is set and angry. After a moment, he speaks, loud and clear, easily audible to everyone, even Daniel to some degree, even though he's really focused in, so he doesn't get as good of an earful as the other two do. Your puppetry shall not work on me. Come out, you wretched beggar. Come out and let us end this nobly. There's silence. Does Crow or Siri have any follow-ups? Siri is, I believe, continuing to make her images fall from the sky in that little miniature tornado.
Yeah, Siri's gonna do the second part of this, which is I should have specified beforehand that the different things that are falling, there's an equal mix of very good and very bad.
Could you
Little
give me
memory
like a
pieces
couple
in
examples
there.
of both?
So the dancing was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The couple dancing was a good thing. Girl chasing running away from a tornado, that's a bad thing. Maybe a woman in a bed is a bad thing. Maybe a boy and a dog is a good thing.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Um, and so once they all kind of get to this bottom piece, they're swirling around, and then a bigger. This is gonna take a lot. I'm okay with this. A larger figure arises from them. So there's the little ones down there. They're still existing. The larger thing arises, and it is two men. One stabs the other, and this is all like kind of shadowy and like see through. Like it's not.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Uh,
Part
one
of the reason you're
stabs
not
the
going to deck
other.
yourself on energy with this thing is you're making it
Hopefully
non-destructive.
not. Um, one stabs the other, and when it does, the person who got stabbed disappears, and all of the little figures underneath it disappear.
Okay. Now, as you do so, you know when you feel your ears pop on an airplane?
Yep, I hate it.
You kind of feel that in your soul for a moment, and you feel yourself get like slightly jittery as you hit yellow on the old
Yep,
essence scale, and so
that's fair.
you're going to be more high strung at this point than you normally would be. But it's also it's not entirely an unpleasant feeling. Like it's this kind of bouncy, jittery sensation, though it can of course change, an elevation of the emotions. Now, Crow, as you do so, as Siri's doing this, you see these images play out, and as they play out, Tatchar's lips clench, and he spits on the ground, and he says, "Do you think this could possibly convince me? I have seen through your facade. I understand more of you than maybe you do yourself. The world and I and she will be better without you." He says, "And none of your puppetry can dash my convictions. So come out, or I will drag you out by the ankles."
You said I'm feeling very jittery?
You are.
Okay. I'm gonna regret this. Siri steps outside and I hate myself. No. Okay. I already committed. I'm doing it. It's happening.
Before you commit to it, Crow, do you have any follow-up actions?
I think Crow's definitely just gonna be thinking like, "Oh, Miss Siri, I hope you know what you're doing." Now, looking at the soldiers, are any of them like close to the edge, or like what is their like formation currently?
Right now, they are in ordered formations of rows of 4, like they were coming up the mountains. You see that their faces are set, though a few of them, their eyebrows contract slightly, and a few of their eyes dart around with a little bit of nerves.
So I can see their faces clearly.
Yeah.
And can I tell which ones are the archers versus
yes,
like more like footmen?
Yep, archers in the back.
And still no scout, I imagine.
Nope.
Dang it. Man. Well, I think I'm gonna shoot out and start hitting these soldiers, because he's getting pretty threatening now, and Siri is maybe in danger. So yeah.
And as such, with your weapon aloft, how are you going to activate the shootout?
So it's already in my hand, and I'm already on the ground, like sniper position. So I think focus stillness is already done.
It has been. Yep.
So my, how do I have a sudden movement from this position though? I don't know.
Do you need a moment to consider? Because Siri had a thing that Mary might regret.
Yeah, we'll give that a moment. But I'm preparing a shoot.
I was really hoping you'd go to Daniel first, if I'm honest.
Okay, we'll go to Daniel first. We'll do that.
Just
Easily.
to procrastinate.
All right.
So, do you have any other thoughts about the eye?
He said it. I get the feeling like a laser pointer.
Like just the urge to click on and off, you know?
He would probably, as he's considering this, see Siri walk past and realizing she's probably maybe not thinking entirely clearly, reflexively just like put his thumb into the eyeball. Maybe not crush it, but like tap it.
And as he squeezes it, he feels the veins in back wrap around his finger like a ring. And the second he does, he sees that there's no beam, there's no blast, there's no burst, but where he pointed, which happened to be quite close to Siri's head, the stone cracks and withers and compresses as though aging 1,000,000 years in a second.
Is it like a constant beam, or is it like a burst?
There's no visibility to it. And so just as you're holding it, you notice this happening, and then as soon as you let go, it stops.
Okay, is it still in ring form around my hand?
Yep, it's still wrapped around your finger.
Okay. Do I feel any different? Like, do I start having murderous thoughts?
No murderous thoughts. You are hyperventilating slightly, and you can hear your heartbeat in your ears.
Fun. Sounds like a panic attack. And I assume if Siri's kind of jittery, is she just like ignoring the fact that the stone
She didn't see that at all.
Perfect. you know what, he's gonna, now that he realizes the triggering like mechanism of the eyeball ring, he's gonna very hurriedly get to his feet and like hurry after her to make sure she doesn't do anything rash.
Absolutely. Siri, let's talk about what you're going to do. That may be rash.
All right, we got two different versions of this that I think are equally bad.
Lovely.
So let's figure out which one to do. Okay, if they're both very bad, I'm just gonna go with the one that I think is more interesting and narratively speaking. Which I think is actually slightly worse. But she's gonna come out with her fan, go like this, and goes, "You asked for me?"
Now, Daniel, she's a little bit ahead of you. If you lunge, you might be able to stop her doing this, but it would also be pretty obvious something's going on inside if you do. Are you going to let her?
I'm going to listen very intently at the door and have like my hand ready to clench. It is like a clenching motion that activates the
Yes, it is.
beam. Okay, so he's just gonna like have his hand ready and just listen intently at the door.
Now, Crow, you hear Siri's voice just as you're about to activate the shootout, and you can see that all of the soldiers' eyes go towards Siri, including Tatshar, of course. And you can see that his angry face softens, and he says, "No, of course I did not ask for you. Please, please come forth. You are potentially in grave danger, and we do not want anything resembling collateral."
Danger from what?
He looks at you, dumbfounded for a moment, and says, "You do realize that you are in... Well, you look quite foreign. Perhaps you don't know." He says, "Kadesh, please go and attend her." And you see one of the men next to him with a heavy shield and a mace comes marching out smartly. He calls after the man as he walks towards you. "We are about to apprehend and be rid of a bane upon this land. Blood may be spilled, and I will ensure to my best degree it is not yours."
You can't be talking about the custodian.
He says after a moment, "I did not believe there was one." As the man Kadesh comes to you and says, "Then please come with me."
She'll willingly walk with the guy, but
Yeah,
go,
he puts his shield kind of around her protectively as he walks away from the building.
the man who offered me tea, who's cleaning up this horrible place?
The man Kadesh looks down at you and says, I hope you did not drink the tea."
Well, I didn't get a chance to.
And after a moment, Tatshar says, "I am sorry to say it, ma'am, but you have likely been deceived. There is a creature, nay, a being of unbelievable power in there. Perhaps he has taken the form of this kindly person who has tried to provide for you, but he is evil, and he must be dealt with. Please step away. I do not want you to get hurt."
She'll step to the side.
The man Kadesh still has his shield partially around her. He's quite tall, and as such, his shield kind of completely covers her. Crow, I don't know if you've seen all that you want to see. What do you want to do?
Yep. I think seeing that, I probably was able to hear enough that they're still pretty dead set on killing our Wari? What's the right word for our charge?
Our ward. Yeah,
Ward. That's a
charge
good word.
charge.
Yeah. And that's not the job. So job is to protect him. So ignoring the Tatshar himself and the one protecting Siri, just aiming for this like line of soldiers ahead of me. My sudden action is actually going to be cocking the rifle.
Yep.
And then aiming for headshots since I can clearly see their faces.
Yep.
And just like shooting ducks down the line. Just pop, 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 pop.
You said you were only going for the ones with bows at first, yes?
Definitely bows at first. But ideally, yeah, trying to like sweep the line as much as I can.
As you sweep and hit the row of bows and back, every shot a coconut. They drop easily. You're not super far away. They aren't moving. Sitting frickin' ducks. And after these shots crack through the air, the men are suddenly perturbed and then and like trying to look around and see what's happening. But Tatchar immediately says, "We are under assault! Storm it!" As he and the men form up and rush towards the entrance to the building. They don't seem to know where the shots have come from. They do seem to know that people have gotten hurt, but the only one who doesn't rush in is the man guarding Siri, who grabs her around the waist, keeping his shield up in almost like a shell over him, and ducks back, pulling her back towards the path leading away. She can see as she does so a lot of her vision is obstructed, but what isn't obstructed is the 4 men with the bows collapsing to the ground, bleeding from the head universally. Now, Crow, immediate actions from you after taking out the 4 archers. Do you have others that you're immediately going to prioritize? They have locked into like a wedge formation and are rushing the door at speed. Their shields are up and their heads are down, making headshots much more difficult. And even though you have a modern rifle, or like not modern, but near modern rifle, they do have heavy armor, so it's not going to go straight through it like butter.
Yeah. Where's Tatchar in all this?
Tatchar is at the head. His shield is up as well.
Bastards. And we said they were wearing like greaves on their legs as well,
Yep.
right?
Fronts of the legs very well protected.
No kneecapping, huh? Well, then I am going to. Oh, this is going to be risky, but yeah, I'm actually going to stand up, holding my position, holding rifle straight down at them, and stand off.
As you are about to activate the standoff, and as you activate it indeed, you actually feel a hand around your waist. And the standoff has activated. The hand has grabbed the top of the gun barrel and is ready to pull it out of the way, and you actually feel the steel of a knife at your neck.
I knew she was coming for me.
And are you saying this aloud?
Yes.
And you hear, "I can't believe you spotted me." This is whispered straight into your ear.
And I'm holding standoff.
Your standoff is up, by the way.
On Tatchar or the wedge.
This is hitting all of them, including the woman behind you. And so in this case, the wedge has rushed up and we're about to bash in through the doors, but they've come to a halt and now the eyes are up on you. Daniel, actions from you. Now, we're going to go a little bit back in time. Siri's just stepped out. She's giving her little back and forthsies with Tatchar. Any actions Daniel would like to take during this, before shots start to fly?
He's immediately going to be whispering stuff like, "What is this woman doing? They clearly know what this guy looks like. Like that they're the locals. They know this stuff." And he's like, "Oh, what should I do? I don't want to like immediately kill this guy, but like this ring seems like it would kill him pretty good, and then the mission would be done." And you said that they had eventually, like, the wedge had come up and stopped, and they're all just staring at.
Oh, we haven't quite got to that part yet. This is before shots start to fly, so you have a couple moments to yourself to prep things for that next step.
Okay.
Not that Daniel knows it's happening yet, but either way, you have other actions you can take, including back and forth insights. If you have thoughts that you want to, like, if you go on, you can talk through your thought process.
Okay, so that like gathering table, it had chairs on either side, yes?
Benches made of stone built into the ground, yes.
Okay. Is there a head/tail end like chair that he could dramatically sit in?
Yes, there is. Again, built into the ground, but you can do so.
Fantastic. And is there one like facing the entrance?
Yes.
Fantastic. He's going to be like thinking in his head, what should I do? Things are probably going to get hairy here in a second. And then he's like, you know what? If they're going to like pull her out of the way, I'll just have them come to me. And he's going to like sit like Kratos throne style in the chair that's facing the door and just wait for them.
This is the moment shots start to fly outside. You hear the rush and then a pause. An uncomfortable and eerie pause, but it's not a dead still silence. Now, briefly jumping back outside, Crow, Tatchar calls up to you. You have been outflanked, it would seem. Stand down.
Can't do that. We've got to protect the old man. You don't understand what you're doing.
His eyes harden. We, eh?
Yeah, you're the one that's outflanked.
And as you do so, his eyes close slightly. And he says, I see. And he says something sharply in a language none of you understand, presumably a local language. Lasem ashikar. And Siri.
No, I'm already trying to get out of this. I caught up. I am like throwing hands.
What do you let's check in with Siri. What does she want to do?
Are my hands free? Let's start there.
Oh yeah. He's not like manhandling you. He just pulled you away out of the line of fire.
Fantastic. I have a glass mirror. As soon as acknowledges the we, I take the glass mirror out and smash this guy in the face with it.
And as you do so, he is wearing a helmet, but glass shards going anywhere near the eyes is definitely enough to make someone flinch.
Yeah, run, out, gone.
Okay. Slinking out from under his arm, which way are you running? Are you running down the path? Are you running towards the building? Are you like towards one of the unoccupied entrances? Are you running into the scrub? Which way are you going?
That's a good question. I can't think that fast. I am running. I think I'm not thinking fast enough. I'm running towards my allies.
Okay. Now, as you are doing so, Crow, good news. As Siri does this, everyone's eyes turn to her. Bad news. It breaks standoff.
Oh.
And so, because of this, he knows standoff is broken. Immediate actions.
Well, I've got a knife to my neck, huh?
Oh yeah. And her other hand is on the barrel of your gun, keeping it from aiming where you want it to go.
I'm
You
gonna
need a
think for a
moment.
minute. Yeah.
Sure. Daniel, you hear the exchange from outside, the we, and then you hear the smash of the mirror. Do you have any other actions from your position in the seat?
No, I don't think so. I think he's waiting for his dramatic moment for for them all to come charging in, because Daniel does love a good flair for the dramatics.
And Siri, as you turn to rush towards, the Tatchar calls to you, please stand down. He says another command to his soldiers, and the group of them break. He and 4 others start to go inside, and the remainder of them, and I will note that means 15 of them, turn and form up against you, with still a group of them turned away and with shields up to protect against Crow. The ones that are facing you are the ones with the halberds, which they immediately bring to bear, and though their faces are not angry and livid, they are trying to be as stoic as possible.
Hey, we're doing Siri's first move, which is start pretending to have a mental breakdown. She starts crying and screaming that she's being forced to be here. She's terrified. She's like she's just screaming and saying, help me, please."
And as you do so, the soldiers' stoic facades crack, and 2 of them break ranks and rush out towards you. Their weapons are in their hands, but not to bear, and both of them hold out hands. One of them saying, I am so sorry. We will ensure that whoever's done this to you is brought to justice, we promise. And they both try to welcome you in to like an embrace with their arms.
She accepts it and says, please don't leave me here. Please don't leave me here. Even you two isn't enough. He's gonna get us. Please help. And she's trying to get more people to focus on protecting her.
Absolutely. Kadesh, the man you smashed a mirror in the face, comes up from behind and puts like a reassuring hand on your shoulder, and another one or two soldiers come over as well. I understand. I understand. But as you are having this little breakdown, Danyel, Tatchar comes sweeping into the room, flanked by 5 of his men. Their armor and height makes them big enough that they actually have to stoop slightly to be in here. And as they whip around, Tatchar immediately raises his halberd in one hand and points it across the table towards you. You are not him.
Greetings. Perhaps. But in time, I have become an instrument of his power. What is your name, good sir?
My name is Prince Tatchar of Zudair. And if you truly are an instrument of his power, I am very sorry for you. I pity you, that you would be used by such a wretch, by such a waste of space.
Pity is not for me. I am one that gains power through travel and learning. And I have learned many things about this not very sightly ring, for instance. And I'm gonna aim it right at the halberd he's holding. Can I target just the halberd?
Yeah, you can target. He's pointing it at you, so you have enough of an angle to just hit the head.
Fantastic. And he's going to clench his fist kind of slowly and like build up a speech. I am Danyel Wormmind, Dragon Slayer, Champion of Tamriel, Slayer of Dragons, Dancer of Strahd, and I am here to fulfill my charge. And he's going to fully clench the fist and fire the, I guess, beam of entropy?
Yeah, and the halberd rusts and cracks, and holes start to form in it as it is corroded away, and eventually falls off the haft, clattering onto the table. The soldiers around him, one of them audibly gasps, and the others you can see very slightly shrink away, slightly. But as they do so, Tatcha raises the useless head, haft of the halberd and says, "Hold, men! Hold. Remember, we have something far more powerful than this on our side." And as he does so, he raises the haft of the halberd, and from the end that the head once stood, a blade of radiant green energy forms. He says, "Tafira has blessed my errand, and her love shall cleave your wickedness from its core."
Wickedness? Now that's a funny term. See, I've seen love do many strange things to men. I have seen it burn down cities, commit horrible acts, all in the name of love. Who are you to tell me that I am the wicked one? Who are you to educate on the ways of fate, a mere mortal man dancing around in scraps of metal and rags? It seems you're just as ignorant as the rest of these mortals. So tell me, am I the wicked one?
He juts out his chin and says, "Love can do evil, yes. But what good has your master ever wrought? Only misery follows him. Only ruin follows him. And I shall not be talked down to by a pompous vulture who laughs and caws at the sky over dead bodies and dashed dreams."
Pompous vulture. That's a new one. I'll have to keep that in my book. But no, it is only misery and ruin to those who are uneducated in the ways of fate. See, fate's a funny thing, and he's going to lean forward. Fate's a funny thing. It flows like a river, you see, into a large pool. Except, in this case, fate is not the pool. Fate is merely the gravity that brings the water into the pool. It is the force that drives fate forward. but it is not fate itself. That is what my so-called master is, simply the driving force. So you caught up in your delusions of wanting to punish fate for your love long gone, or dying, as I am told. It's not his fault. It is simply the way things go.
He is quivering in rage as you talk. Carry on.
To put it simply, it's not his fault. Things happen to good people. Bad things happen to good people. Hell, my late wife came to a very tragic end at the hand of an experiment of mine gone wrong. I thought it was the hand of fate that took her, but no, it was a simple miscalculation.
And before you can say the word miscalculation, his fist slams into the table. Enough! Enough words. Enough words. And as he does so, he draws a short sword from his side. He says, "You can rust every blade on my person." And as he does so, he starts to stand up from the seat he was in at the far end of the table and starts to slowly walk around. "You can rust the clothes off my body. You can turn my hair gray. But I will strangle your master with my bare hands, even if I am aged to a withering husk as I do it." His soldiers do not follow him at this moment. Before we go further, I got to check in with Crow. He's in a bit of a tight spot.
Sure. So, I've got this person at my back, arm around me, one hand on the barrel, knife at my neck, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna say, all right. I'm gonna visibly almost relax my muscles and start to lower the rifle.
As you do so, she pulls the rifle barrel such that it starts to come into like a parallel position to your body, completely useless for shooting.
Pointing at what?
This would be pointing to your left, because her arm is coming around your left, pointing towards the cliff.
So there's a cliff wall behind me?
Cliff wall behind you, but also cliff wall to your left because of the way that it curves.
Right. Cool. I would
you still have a finger on the trigger.
Yeah. I'm going to trick shot off the wall and into her.
Do you care where?
Not particularly, but yeah, not particularly.
Oh, actually, this is important. Paired action. This is a bit of a weird paired action.
Ooh. Yeah, I was going to do something different.
It's kind of low on your body, and it has you have the one hand loose, the other hand barely on the trigger.
What would a good paired action be? I think I want to do something with the lever,
That's a pretty big motion. That knife is probably going into you before you can finish that.
True. It needs to be a stylish flourish. That's tricky. This position. I'm gonna risk it. I'm probably gonna get a little cut, but I'm just gonna do like a quick flick of the lever as I pull the trigger.
And as you shoot, you hear a gasp from her. And you can feel a couple of things. First of all, your neck has reflexively come down. You can feel her breath in your ear as she breathes faintly. Her fist is trying to push it deeper in, but I mean, she's not a very big person. You have a head in the way, so your head down has kind of caught her hand in place.
So
there's
this
split moment of a pause. Do you have an instant action you want to take from here? Her hand is still on the barrel of your gun and is clenching it tighter than it was before, but there's still this pause. What do you want to do?
What I would like to do is let go of the rifle.
Yeah.
Grab my revolver, not even draw it, just turn the holster towards her and shoot her in the guts.
And as you do so, you feel her fall away from you with a last as she slumps to the ground. She coughs. Now, you are bleeding profusely.
It's got me.
You barely feel pain, but there's a lot of blood.
Did she get a jugular? Can I feel it, like, pumping out?
She did not get your jugular.
Alright, I'm just gonna hold that tight. And actually, what is she wearing again?
As you turn around, she's wearing like a how would I describe it? It's a light armor bodysuit that covers most of her person with like a couple of heavier pads in it. The back of it is textured, almost like actual camo, even though it wasn't working like actual camo, it was magical. But so you can think of her as wearing almost like a chainmail or like a padded lacquer sort of jumpsuit of armor, light armor.
No cloth that I can just rip off and use as a bandage, though.
Oh, there's cloth to it. There's a couple of different materials, so you could definitely get a piece of cloth off. Especially, there's none that are visibly ripped on most of her, but you did just shoot her in the stomach, and so you could take a bit off of that.
Yeah, whatever cloth I can, just try to staunch the bleeding. And is this camo thing, like, removable at all, or probably not going to fit me? I'm a larger person than this person.
Exactly.
Okay.
You do see that it does seem to be removable, but it is kind of worn like a turtle shell, so it would take some effort to remove it. And while she is on her back, gasping for air and clutching her side, she is also still holding her knife, and her eyes are locked on yours.
Put her out of her misery.
As you put your gun towards her, she says, "I didn't see." But before she can finish it, and she drops. You can see that Ors is watching on complacently from his little puddle against the wall.
Guess that was her fate, huh?
Overconfidence. The fate of many.
Can't you just make the fate of the rest of them be that?
I only supply the gravity. The water goes downhill by itself.
Water, blood, it all runs downhill, huh?
And as you say this, your contemplation is interrupted by a striking blow to your shoulder. You just got hit by a rock. They don't have bowmen, but they still got projectiles down below.
No.
So, because you are currently standing up and as such are presenting a profile to them. There are more rocks being chucked at you from below as well.
Yeah, duck down, try to peer over the edge.
And as you do so, you can see that the group of them have now condensed around Siri and are kind of close to the entrance. You don't have a brilliant view of them, but you can see a couple of head tops. They no longer have their shields all the way up, seeming to think that you have at least been badly hurt. You don't immediately see Tatshar, but you do hear his voice when he screams enough down below inside.
So, just visualizing Siri and a group of them are outside close to the entrance?
Yes, close to the entrance, huddled.
Okay. Ooh. I'm gonna take a look at Ors and tell them, like, huddle down. Maybe get that camo armor off her if you can. I don't know. I'm gonna go help these ones out. And I actually just want to hop down off the ledge. I realize this might be a little bit of a drop, but Crow's got 2 reflex. He should be able to handle this.
Yeah, absolutely. You can easily handle this. Do you want to drop down onto the gravel slurry that you climbed up by, or all the way down to the yard?
All the way down to the yard.
This puts you down not terribly far away from the huddled group of them, who immediately turn towards you and present a shield wall.
And,
real quick, before we go further, as you do so, Siri, you've been in histrionics and have been gathered up and bundled together, and people are completely surrounding you and bringing up shields to make you feel safe. And at first, there's a blur for a moment. You have no fucking idea what's going on. She might even be kind of feeling the histrionics in addition to putting them on. But she does suddenly feel a shift in attention as her captors, protectors, suddenly shift around. One of them puts her this is the same guy, once again, Kadesh, puts her behind him as they all bring up a shield wall. The shield wall is protective enough you can't actually see out of it and have no idea what's going on.
That's perfectly fine. The thing I would like to do is or they're all looking away towards whatever it is. I can't really see. I assume it's Crow.
You have no eyes on you right now.
Fantastic. I would like to. Is it sand that's on this ground? I remember hearing sand.
It's like soft, cracked earth. It's a lot of dust inside, but this is more like if you've been on a hiking trail towards the top of like the hill or the mountain you're on when it gets like kind of sun-baked and loose. It's like that.
Can I draw in it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'd like to take the back of my fan and in the dirt write what will happen. And then reverse viewpoint onto Orse so that he's seeing through my eyes.
That's tight, yeah. And as you do so, there's a beat, and then in your mind, as though he's speaking into your ear, you hear, "Are you certain that you want to know?"
Oh, I think he did not think I was asking the question that I wanted to ask, but I'm going to say, I'm going to write, I just want to know. And then underlined just.
Yeah. And as you do so, you hear again in your mind, "Are you certain that you want to know?"
This is okay. This is very much not the question I was asking. How do I?
He is a very literal person.
Yeah, I know.
If you need a moment to think, I can catch Danyel up.
Yeah, do that.
Now, back over to Danyel. Tachar was starting to come around the edge of the table with his blade out. His soldiers are not following him towards you. What do you want to do?
He's going to aim the ring and simply say, "Sit down. We are having a civil conversation."
He says, "There's nothing civil about this, pawn. All is fair in love and war, is it not?"
Perhaps. But I know the pain you feel. I know it well. And killing this god is not going to fix it.
"If you know," he screams, "then sympathize, damn you!" He strikes the blade down not into you, but into the table in front of you. It actually embeds in the solid stone.
Believe me, I sympathize. More than you could possibly imagine. But there are other ways other than murder. Do you really think that if this god truly controlled fate as you think he does, that killing him would reverse the ailment that your love feels? Or could it make it worse? Why not seek out medical advisors?
We have done so, he interrupts you. "We have gone to every corner of the land and every corner of every land beyond that we know we have done everything.
But you
Deicide is not murder."
You haven't found me? I know plenty of things from all sorts of lands that you wouldn't even be able to dream of.
He takes the hand off the blade as you say this.
I could cure her. Or at the very least, ease the suffering until a cure could be found.
He roughly grabs you by the scruff and picks you up out of your chair. He says, "Maybe you are right. And yet I do not trust you, pawn. You lie so easily with the tongue of fate. And yet, you've made just barely enough sense that I will countenance sparing you, but I will not spare your master. He dies today. He dies.
Is his hand exposed?
Yes, his hand is grabbing your scruff like this.
Well, you've just said the wrong words, and I'm going to grab his wrist and clench the ring with the eyeball, making like immediate contact with his hand.
And as you do so, his hand starts to shrivel, but simultaneously a radiant green glow starts to come up his arm. The entropy halts at the wrist. His fingers are withering to skeleton, but the rest of him is intact, protected and bolstered by the green glow coming up his arm. You can see that his eyes are wide, his jaw is set, he is sweating, he is intense. He is unable, it seems like he is locked into keeping this from spreading further, but so too, now that you are using this ring more substantially, you feel the toll it is taking on you. You feel the creeping exhaustion that is starting to surround your body. And you feel the deep calm that is building in the back of your mind.
If he were distracted just a little bit more, could the rot potentially overtake him?
It's possible, but you are so locked into this as well. The ring is taking a substantial amount of focus to not just its power be pushed out of his hand. In the same way that he is focusing to not let you win, you find that whenever your focus dips, the green pushes your rot further out from him.
Shit. So I couldn't take my dagger and stab him.
That would probably let him completely repel the rot, and he is heavily armored. Now, you are extremely intelligent, and because of that, even though you are deeply focused, your mind can still work. You can still think. What do you want to try to do?
I want to headbutt him.
That's using your head.
Because, I'm not, reaching around and, trying to grab for something. I'm just lurching forward.
Yep. And as you do so, your head painfully strikes his helmet. Ow. And you can see that he does jerk back slightly, but he is a big, powerful, combat-trained guy. And that headbutt barely phases him. The rot is forced from his hand. And he is let go of your scruff, by the way, as he looks at his fingers, which are no longer skeleton. They've returned to full health. And there's this moment of pause in him as he just contemplates the power that was just surging through him. Do you have immediate follow-ups? While you're thinking, I'm going to jump to Siri because she had a thing. Oh, you're muted right now.
Keep doing that. Yeah. She's just gonna write underneath. She originally put what will happen. She's gonna write underneath if you die.
Then there's a moment. And then in your ear, you hear, "Are you certain that you want to know?"
Damn it, I don't. I don't want to know it that way. I want to know in the abstract. Okay.
Bro.
Siri's not this type of person. Siri
Indeed.
wouldn't. She doesn't want to know. Straight up fuck this guy. Absolutely not.
Real quick, Crow, you've dropped down in front of the shield wall, which has just formed up. You saw that they sheltered Siri behind them as they did so. What do you want to do?
Did I see anything happening with what was happening with Danyel and
Yes, looking through the window, they are in the congregation room, and you can see the green glow radiate the scene. You can see Daniel's attempt to headbutt. You can see Tatchar hardly phased. and win the day. Though you have no idea what's going on with the skeleton fingers. The magic eye is not something that Crow is familiar with yet. But you saw the confrontation.
I didn't see any of that, beforehand. So I don't even know what he just did. More magics. But so they're in the room that is leading from, like, there's an entrance in.
Entrance in this room, and then the room you teleported into.
Okay, but they're in the next room over. Like, if I were to back into the room, that room, they would all have their backs to me?
Yes, they would. Except for them.
Cool. Is there a door?
Yes. You drop down pretty much next to it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back up through the door, close it.
No door, just an open archway, rather.
Okay, just a doorway. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
this is the one that you guys attempted to barricade and they bashed through pretty effortlessly.
Yeah. So I'll back through and turning. I only have my revolver because I left my rifle up there.
As you back through, by the way, you hear one of the phalanx yell, "Prince! Hostiles!" As the phalanx rushes forward to try to cut you off as you're... Well, they won't cut you off, but like pin you in as you're going in through the doorway. The prince has 4 men in the room with him that start to turn around as you are passing through into sight of them.
I was going to fan fire them with my revolver. And just...
Where are you aiming on them? You don't have a great ability to aim, but you have some ability to aim.
Yeah, face shots seems to be my best bet. It's the most exposed part of them.
Absolutely. You can see that several of them drop. Another one dives for cover, but at the very least you have a clear field as you empty your barrel looking down across the room. You can see that Tachar has turned around, and Daniel, you can see that Tachar has turned around as well as Crow enters the room, guns blazing, and deals with the 4 that were behind the prince. The prince now has, for the moment, his head turned away from you. Any immediate responses from Daniel before Crow takes a follow-up?
All right. You said he's heavily armored.
Yes, enormously so.
If he's turning around, and he's like taller than me, is there a spot near the back of his neck that's exposed at all?
He is wearing an aventail, namely like a little drapery of chain that covers his neck.
Shoot.
The best you would get would be his jawline.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go for it. Daniel's gonna have a surge of bravery, pull the dagger from his suit jacket and try to plunge it into that exposed jawline with him distracted by a gun.
Okay. You have a plus to vigor, don't you?
I do have a plus to vigor.
Hit. That's actually super relevant here. Sorry, I need a moment to think about this. Crow, did you have an immediate follow-up after dealing with the 4 at the entrance here?
Reloading.
Yep.
It would be the immediate action, but I'd imagine Prince Tachar is turning toward me.
Yes, he is. His arms start to move, but as he does so, you can see Daniel's hand almost like materialize at the side of his, like under his chin. And Tachar blinks, whirls around, and Daniel, you catch a gauntleted punch square across your face. Daniel is decked immediately. He doesn't, like, the world is gone. Blinking lights. He is completely dazed and is borderline unconscious just from the punch.
Yeah, he's not a
Bro, immediate follow-ups from you. You got like 2 bullets in before that happened.
Yeah, I would assume I didn't get to do too much there. Yep. Quick cooldown check.
What are you looking for?
Jeez, anything. Standoff or shootout, preferably.
You have trick shot.
Yeah, I don't need that just yet. I'm just gonna run towards him. Like as soon as I see him whirl to punch Daniel, I'm gonna use that chance to sprint forward to vigor, so it should be pretty fast.
Yep. As you zoom towards him, you can see that he is drawing another blade and is bearing down on Daniel, prone on the ground, ready to finish him off. What do you want to do? His back is to you. This is the most heavily armored part of him.
I want to jump onto his back, ram my gun into his face.
Now, as you jump onto his back, he reacts pretty immediately and does like a wrestler's throw to fling you off in front of him.
Shoot up into his
Now,
face if I can.
As you are rolling off of him, he's pretty much putting you over the table. And this will mean that you do have a tiny window of opportunity where you are looking up straight at him.
Yeah, that's gonna be it. Just
And you have, remind me your skill and reflex stats?
2 and 2.
Oh, goddamn, that's actually perfect here. Okay, before we go further with this, as Crow's doing his gun kata, Siri, actions from you.
Yeah. Siri is going to drop a smoke bomb and then start sprinting to try to get to Ors.
Absolutely. You last saw him being put on a ledge above the temple by Crow. So you will have to climb to get to him. That okay?
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yep.
Yes.
You leave great confusion behind you in the phalanx as you sprint out and start going up the gravel skid and then up to the ledge. Now, Siri is not a big person, if I understand correctly.
No.
It's definitely going to be pretty hard for her to climb her way up this, but at the very least, she's not wearing armor.
Mm-hmm. Could I make a small illusion since they're slightly solid to for a half-second boost off of?
Ooh, okay, yes, absolutely. For a half-second boost off, that you can do, and you can kind of roll up over the ledge. And
Nice.
Dusty and hair all over the place, you can look to Ors, who is complacently sitting there next to the dead body of the woman in the skin-tight armor and camo suit, who has a bullet hole in her head, as well as another one in her side, as well as another one in her stomach.
Yeah, Siri's gonna walk up to him and backhand him.
And
You just
as you
slap
do
a
so,
god.
Yeah. I'm gonna say.
as you do so, Ors reacts to it naturally, then brings his head back level with yours.
You're the laziest piece of filth I've ever laid my eyes on. I can't do anything. The only thing I can do is illusions, but even I can make them solid sometimes. You're the god of fate. You can't do anything with it. You just are it. Surely even the god of gravity would be able to affect how strongly it pulls. You sit here and you do nothing, and you make people suffer for nothing.
He says,
You're worthless.
after a moment, fate is inertia. We all must come to rest eventually. As he says this, by the way, you can see that his cheek, where you struck him, is changing. Your illusion is breaking, and you can see that from it, underneath to his actual skin, one of those deep wrinkles is opening into another mouth on his cheek.
She gets rid of her veneer.
He appears in front of you, the same, but for that one strange mouth. He says, and he repeats, we all must come to rest eventually. And he speaks from two mouths with two voices.
She kneels down next to him. Do you want to die?
And Ors says, I have no desire to die or to live. There is no will left in the matter. I am gravity. I pull. I am inertia. I bring to rest. We all must come to rest, eventually. As he speaks with two voices from his two mouths.
Does that include you? Does that include the gods? Do you need to rest?
And he says, what I need, I do not know, and what I want is no longer relevant. Crow. The bullet goes clean through his jaw. His head jerks up. And he tumbles backwards into a metal clattering pile on the ground. Danyel is still on the ground next to you, completely dazed. His glasses are broken and his jaw looks broken too.
Ow.
Yeah, ow. Definitely ow.
Would he have enough sense to stand back up and see the prince is on the ground?
Absolutely. You would at least be able to lift your head and see that the prince is on the ground bleeding and not moving.
He's going to point his ring and just unload on the prince and make sure he stays dead.
And Crow would see before his eyes the prince in his beautiful armor and his beautiful clothing withering as though he was aging 10 years a second in front of your eyes. And his arm.
Oh no, we lost Robby.
Tightens. Oh, did it? Am I back?
Yeah.
Your voice is back. There,
Oh,
now your whole
Your
body.
video is frozen.
There we go. Pardon me. Thank you. Sorry. His skin tightens and his face shrivels, his teeth fall out, and his eyes crack and give way to film. His armor dusts. And within 10 seconds, the prince is a mummy on the ground, encased in his own armor as a sarcophagus.
Well,
Danyel,
shit, what'd you do to him?
looking to Danyel, by the way, Daniel's not looking much better. He looks like he's 80 or 90 years old. And Danyel, for your side, you feel calm. And your voice is deeper and more steady and monotone than when you normally speak.
I killed him. It's what needed to be done. It all comes to rest.
Well, a bullet would have done just fine.
Bro, as you say this, you suddenly reel slightly. You've lost so much blood that you're starting to lose consciousness.
Why aren't our Enclave badges pinging? We gotta get you out of here. Probably me too.
This ring has been helpful, but detrimental, all in one.
Do you wish to try to remove it?
Yeah, let's take this thing off.
And it comes willingly, with a slight pop. And as it does so, your voice returns to normal, but and to Crow's eyes, your aging returns immediately, but you are pale and exhausted. Like in Enclave terms, red stamina.
Oh.
Like you can barely lift your head. And Siri.
Oh, that's no good.
Jumping back up to you. What do you want to do?
Do I hear the commotion? Do I hear somebody say, he's dead, why aren't our badges pinging?
You hear a shot fire, and if you strain your ears, you can hear Crow say that.
Great, okay.
He looks to you and very calmly says, "They will see me if they come up here to collect their dead."
Well, shit.
You're lucky I want to go home. And she, throws whatever she's holding. I don't even know what. She just tosses something at him and then gets off the roof.
Tosses something, like a physical something?
Just a literal physical, I don't care if it's a handkerchief or her last fan or whatever, she's fucking pissed.
And as you start to climb down the slurry, you hear panicked voices. "The prince! The prince has fallen!" And another says, "I had told him it was a fool's errand." And at the bottom of the slurry, you see the towering figure of Kadesh waiting for you. "And what were you doing up there?" he says stoically.
I want that man dead. And she points up to the roof. But if you kill him, everybody dies! so it won't even do anything. Your friend already died, and now even if his love is rescued, he won't ever get to be with her. Just go home while you can, while we all can.
Kadesh looks to you and says, "The prince made me swear an oath that I would kill the god if he fell." His eyes are downcast, and he says, "I hope he can find it," as he tears up, "in his heart to forgive me for failing." "Men, form up! Now! Let us tend to the fallen." And Siri feels her Enclave badge ping, as do the other two inside. A gentle pulse. Any final actions?
Siri will probably go inside just to see where the other two are.
She sees the prince's mummified body being wept over by two of the soldiers. She sees Danyel prone on the ground. She sees Crow barely able to keep himself in a squatting position, clutching his neck.
This was a pretty stupid mission, huh? She'll go over and try to help Crow ping his badge for him. Whenever he's ready.
Does Crow have any responses?
Another good mission, Miss Siri.
Certainly better than the last one, at least.
As he starts to teleport out, any final actions from Danyel as Siri enters the room? He is so weak that it's hard for him to get his hand to his badge.
He is going to, with the ring like still in his hand, just tuck it into his suit jacket. And as it passes by, he'll tuck it in and then hit the badge and just collapse.
And as Danyel teleports away, any final actions from Siri?
Nope.
And on that moment, we will end the mission.
Holy shit.
I was prepared for a party wipe, by the way.
Yeah, we were getting close there. I was getting pretty worried.
Yeah.
The old man was the Edritch Horror, wasn't he?
Okay, there's a lot to go over. I'm sorry for keeping people so long. We have ended on almost an exact 3-hour mission, which is hopefully not too bad for you guys. I want to make sure we do a bit of a debrief before we sign off today. If you guys are up for it, of course, if it's too late, I totally understand. But first of all, do you guys have any questions for me about the plot, about calls made on the mission, about any of those necessaries? If so, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. What would have happened if Danyel had returned the eye to? I always mess up his name. To the god.
Yeah.
Oris.
To Oris. Yeah. That's an excellent question. That is okay. He would not have accepted it, and if you forced him to take it, he would probably have been extremely reluctant.
Okay.
I don't think you guys could have made him take it. If you could have, then that's another thing, but I'll keep that a secret. Good question. Other questions about plot stuff or calls made? And if anyone in chat has questions, please feel free to fire away. Thank you guys for sharing the journey with us. This was, I think, one of the most emotionally charged ones we've had yet. This was lovely.
This was a deep one.
Yeah.
What I asked earlier, was the old man the Eldritch Horror? Because one of the focus words was Eldritch Horror, Eldritch Nightmare.
There were two pieces to that, actually. So one of the things I said briefly in mission statement was that gods don't go down without a fight. You could have let him get attacked, and whenever he would get hurt, he would get progressively more horrific and harder to kill.
Ooh.
So that was part of my balancing mechanism.
Slap.
Exactly.
Oh, the slap.
And so because you guys are you're not a tanky group, I was kind of expecting him to end up getting beaten up a good bit. And because of that, get horrific and also more dangerous for you guys in so doing, because he could not control himself as much in that state. And so that was my plan. Didn't end up working that way, but that was my plan. The ledge was actually shockingly clever. I was like, wow, I guess he could carry him up onto a ledge, couldn't he? Shit. Like, I was kind of hoping to get you into a completely backed in position. Other questions?
Could he be killed, and if so,
Yes.
what would have happened?
To this area, people would not have died.
The eternal undeath.
Yes, which is kind of also awful and horrific, and is probably would have been much worse for this area in like 100 years. Yep.
Could
So
Daniel have?
well, pardon. So I was just going to conclude. It would have been an undying land, which is potentially very bad, but not in the short term. Daniel, yes.
Could Daniel have cured his wife?
I'm not going to say it's impossible. Between like fun fact and knowledge is power, I could maybe see you pulling something off. I think it would have been very hard though.
Gotcha.
Totally. Other questions about plot stuff or calls?
What the like him giving you power thing? You would become immortal and then die?
No, variable effects, but the summary would be kind of like what happened with Daniel. The more you made use of his powers, the older you would get.
Okay.
And
totally
in
gonna
Daniel's
model
case,
and
he was
print
able
that
to.
ring.
Pardon?
I'm totally gonna like model and print the 3D print that ring. By the way.
Oh, that's sick.
That's it.
Yeah, and in Daniel's case, he was lucky enough to have a piece that you could take off, and in so doing, banish the negative effects that had been building up within him. But in so doing, become exhausted in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? If not, I have a brief couple of assessments for you all. Oh, thank you for saying so, Arik and Chad. I'm glad that you liked the mission. I'm really pleased with this one. I felt like I was in a bit of a rut recently, and this one I felt like it cracked me out of it. Like this one felt good. Also, any legacy players who end up seeing this will be like, "Oh God, this mission screams Robby." Like this is very much my thing. Okay, so oh yeah, you have a thing?
No, just last question. How were the other focus words incorporated? I guess killing the sun. That one was clear.
I killed the sun for you is taking down a god to save someone. The hanging man. I modeled him. Oh, so okay. I'm a tarot nerd. I know a lot about it. The hanging man is actually modeled after Odin. I modeled him as a more horrific Odin. Missing eye, association with carrion, fate, weird, that sort of thing. And so as soon as you said the hanging man and I killed the sun for you, I'm like, okay, God modeled after Odin. I know what I'm doing. And they have to kill him. Also, Norse gods can obviously die, which I thought was a cool touch that added to the mythos of this world. So yeah, that's how I used the focus words. I also hope you don't mind. I gave you a hard one. I wanted to make this mission quite difficult because, I mean, I've never played with you before, my friend, but you seem very experienced and you took to the game pretty well, and I was confident you'd be pretty good. And then Detour and Mary, I know you guys. I know what you're capable of, you know. But that being said, I was actually really scared I had fucked you all and was gonna have to do a full party wipe. Like it was like 3 actions away from going there. I was pretty certain Daniel would die. But honestly, let me get to my assessments. Let's start with Detour and Crow. I love Crow. Every time I see him, he does something interesting in a way that I didn't expect. He is this like emotional rock who's so level-headed and like kind of playful at times, which I think is really fun. And I don't know. I love how you make decisions with him, and you did you did some great shot calling on this mission. The ending bit of dropping down was the smartest thing you could do. Daniel was dead without that. Like he was fucking dead. But the fact that you dropped down and managed to like you had known your positioning well enough. And you did it. And as a gunslinger, positioning is so freaking important, and you nailed it the entire mission. You made literally one mistake, which was you let the scout see you.
I knew the scout was gonna get me.
Yeah. I put her in specifically because I didn't want you to just run roughshod over the mission.
And I anticipated that. That's like, there's going to be something here for me to deal with. Where is it?
And the fact that when you were first scanning the group, you weren't in cover. That was the one notable mistake you made. And everything else, I thought your trick shots were awesome. so freaking good. It's amazing. Crow is a great rock to the team. And your little gun kata thing at the end of shooting while rolling, only with those stats could you have pulled it off, and it was beautiful. Honestly, Detour, amazing job. And talk about Danyel. First time, and I threw you into this, you poor thing. I'm so sorry, but I hope you had fun with it. I think Danyel is an incredibly fun character. You did a beautiful job of leaning in to all of the weird effects that were going on. I thought that the way that you kind of took on the eye and embodied that was mwah, lovely. Your monologuing was mwah, double lovely. It was so nice. And frankly, you pissing him off was so smart. Unbelievably smart. Because as you saw, his soldiers were fucking terrified and wanted nothing to do with this. Even though they're elite, they can keep discipline, right? But you also did one other thing, which is you saw the green energy, his patron goddess, right? You got him to expend enough of that energy that when he got shot in the fucking head, he couldn't heal himself. That, just on like a raw pragmatic level, beautiful. And you'll notice that once he was shot in the fucking head, you could toast him with the atrophy ring instantly. I'd say you also did a great job of using your intelligence stat for a first-time player. Intelligence is a very hard stat to make optimal use of. You did a great job kind of going back and forth, getting ideas, and listening to some of like the little prompts and suggestions I offered you as insights. Really nicely done with that. I'd say the main mistakes I saw was one, no fun fact. Like, leverage that. That was the big one. And the other one is trying to find ways to more proactively use your abilities a little earlier in the mission. I thought that some of your ideas were like fortifying was really cool, but after it became apparent that would be very hard, if not kind of like completely inconsequential. Trying to find other places to leverage your abilities was great. Like when you pulled off that catalog, I was like, okay, he's figured it out. Like he's going in the direction. And so I think that you did a great job feeling out the game and making use of some of the more difficult mechanics, like, again, intelligence in particular. And I would love to see the character more. I think you lean into his, like, multiverse identity really fun, too. It was really enjoyable. Fun character. He verges between, like, kooky, maniacal, and, like, genuinely good person, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. And Siri. You know I love Siri. Siri's the best. I've played with her so many times at this point. And this mission, I think that kind of a similar mistake was made to Danyel of more proactively using abilities. But in this case, not at the beginning. You did a great job of proactively using them at the beginning. But just plain old camouflage would have helped a lot on this thing. However, your big elaborate ones were not only hysterically funny at times. That fucking phantasm at the beginning was hysterical. So you do a great job rolling.
Floating phantasm guy.
Yeah, you do a great job rolling with that. But also, when you actually pull, like some of the things you did, for example, the quick reverse viewpoint to check in with Ors, tight, right? The phantasm you did to like rile up Tatshar, tight. That was great. The histrionics to tug at the soldier's heartstrings. Perfect. Optimal Siri. That's like, these are, you pulled off so many excellent plays. And as she often is, Siri is a major mover and shaker on these missions. I think that you leveraged your social play beautifully. I felt that your back and forth with Ors was super interesting and was kind of the heart of the mission in some ways. And I think that you portrayed her emotional turmoil perfectly. Like, could not have asked for more, and actually made it relevant to the mission too. So I thought that was beautiful. She had enough of a dynamic moment at the end there that I actually teared up when I was playing Kadesh, and I only do that when I am given a lot to work with from a player, right? So
thank you.
You always know it's a good mission when Robby cries. This is a legacy term.
I was very tempted to just kill him. I don't know how I would have done it.
Oh, I know.
But I so bad wanted to do that.
Yep.
I didn't though. That was good.
Do you guys have any thoughts about your? Let's go in the same order. Detour, do you have any thoughts about? Actually, all of you. Do you guys have thoughts about Crow that you'd like to share? And we'll just quickly go through the same order, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah.
I like his.
No, you got it. Go.
I like his constant denial of his own very clearly magical abilities, and the slight disdain he has for other magical abilities. I think that adds a good dynamic to his character when it's him and two other very obvious magic users.
Indeed.
It's a good antithesis to the rest of the dynamic of the group.
Totally. What do you think, Mary?
I mean, let's just start with the hat. Let's just start there and work up. The hat's great.
Yeah,
I
the
love the
tight
hat every
hat.
single time. But yeah, I really like, I find that whenever I play a character, I kind of play roller coasters all the time. I think Detour, you've been conduiting for me for a little while. I think you get that vibe at this point. And playing a character that is stoic for me would be very difficult. And so I really admire that in you, of like having a character who's like reserved but still like feels very real.
Totally. And Detour, how do you feel about Crow this time?
Crow's really growing on me. I think he and Hemlock are kind of the two characters that have the most life in my mind. And so yeah, it's why I've revisited him for the last couple of missions.
Totally.
Yeah, feeling good about him.
He was close to death on this one, by the way. Like,
Yeah,
another
I figured.
minute. And about Danyel, Detour, Mary, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Danyel briefly, and then we'll hear from James about it.
I thought Daniel's monologuing was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
As a conduit, that's like, you can have anything. Go for it. It was great. Yeah, super entertaining, especially from a first-time player. That's like peak Enclave right there. So, excellent work.
Totally.
Yeah, the monologue successfully pissed me the fuck off. I hope that was the goal of you were trying to get this other character very angry, and it worked really, you played it really well. And just the whole concept of it, you were talking about it a bit before the mission, the concept of Danyel is just brilliant as a whole backstory. I think it's great.
Totally. I should also add the fact that you actually mirrored some of the things you heard Ors say earlier in the mission. Amazing. It was so nice and had so much flavor to it. So yeah, James, what are your thoughts on playing Danyel and on Enclave in general now that you've tested it out?
I know it's not really a combat heavy system, which is good. It's good to have RPG systems that aren't combat heavy. I do wish he had a little more in the way of combat. Maybe like, I don't know, a simple lighting something on fire, even if it's like, I don't know, a bit of gear he has, just something combat wise, because I would hate to be the player that sits in the back and just isn't able to do anything combat wise. Now, the information gathering, perfect to Daniel's character. Absolutely spot on. He loves gathering information from various universes. He loves collecting in his little demi-plane library and keeping it as like a good stories to read. That perfectly ties into his character.
Totally.
But all around for Enclave, I love it. I will absolutely be playing more of it.
Excellent to hear. And if you're looking for combat stuff, you actually have two things available to you. One, your arcane stat. With arcane manifestation, you can produce weak but still combat relevant powers in order to supplement a little bit. They're small, but they can really make the difference. And the other one is, now that you've gone on a successful mission, you actually have the ability to get a reward. And you can stack up multiple rewards from missions to cash in for stronger ones. I think it's on page 50-ish. Is the loot and progression section. Might be 48. And so you could either cash in for a common item, that could be a combat related item, or you could save up for 3 ticks, like 3 missions worth, in order to get any item off of another class and have it be class tier equipment. So you can kit yourself into combat if you want to go in that direction.
Okay.
43 and 44.
Oh,
for
43 to
progression.
44. Thank you. And
Okay.
Mary, go for it.
Oh, if I just may also suggest, you have a book bag and you can get a Webster's dictionary and beat somebody over the head. I have done it. I think I want to say one of Detour's characters has also done something similar. Throwing
I think
books
every
is
librarian
very
finds
useful.
the book tossing strat at some point.
Yeah.
Dictionary. Because
In
like I have the
Legacy,
book bag. I have a book bag, but it's like the inside of my suit jacket. So if I could
yeah,
just like comically pull a whole dictionary out of my suit,
Hey,
I
that's
would
how it
love
works.
that.
It's
yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
There's actually a character who was only briefly played, but was very funny, who is a librarian who was kitted into a throwing book character who literally only teched into might and sensory and vigor and just lobbed books at people rapid fire. It's very funny.
Oh my god, that's
Stupid as hell.
great.
Not a great character, but funny. And yeah, lastly, Mary, let's talk about Siri. First of all, Detour and James, do you have any thoughts generally on Siri before we hear from Mary herself?
Oh my god, the emotional turmoil. I love it. It is perfect. I really thought you were gonna try to kill him, or at the very least send those poor schmucks up to kill him, and then maybe just have them get annihilated. But the line of "I want him dead, but we can't kill him." Oh, gold. Absolute gold.
Indeed.
Mwah. Perfect.
Perfection. And Detour,
Yep.
what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely echo the emotional roller coaster of interacting with Oris was very entertaining. Absolutely loved it, and of course, I always love the ridiculous phantasms. In particular, the balloon one that, as I imagined it, just like that was just too funny, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
In
definitely no, go.
no, you first.
Oh, I definitely find that at the beginning of sessions I'm a lot goofier, and by the end I'm like, okay, we're getting real now. Let's go.
Yep, I've noticed that with your playstyle. What are your thoughts on Siri for this one more generally? How do you think you played her? How do you think she grew? That sort of thing.
Um, I think I played her okay. I think it was probably a little too goofy at a certain point.
I don't even know. Like at the beginning, silly, yeah, but like you sunk into it, so I didn't personally think it detracted.
Okay, that's good. It was funny at the very least. Yeah, I really just I wish that I could rework her stats a little bit because I really wish I had like fully spec'd into spirit at this point.
Mm,
Um, so I'm definitely gonna be like as I'm leveling up trying to correct that a little bit and
max the
push her
spirit.
more into the
Yeah,
yeah, into the interpersonal sector of things.
totally. Well, I definitely don't take away from your emotional acting on this one. You did amazing. And
Thank
I
you.
I'll take credit for this. I think on your second ever mission, I suggested you might want to look into Spirit. But
So it was you told me to look into both spirit and intelligence, and I went,
yeah.
"Oh, sure, intelligence," and then I ignored spirit, and that's on me.
There you go. Oh, we just got in chat. I wish the prince didn't have to die, but I guess there wasn't really a choice to complete the mission successfully. I'm not going to say it was impossible. There were maybe ways to get to talk him out of it, but I will say you would have had to deal with the god blessing him more than that because she had an axe to grind. So if you could find a way to deal with her, then yeah, maybe the prince would have been dealable, but it would have been very freaking hard. Okay, excellent analyses, guys. I cannot state enough how well you all played. And I'm intensely grateful that you all participated in this with me. Like you, Detour, Mary, you know I love you. James, you were fantastic. You are welcome in my groups anytime, any day. And let's sign ourselves off. Just to give a little blurb about what you guys can expect on the Dice Dragons Guild. There's going to be, let me take a look. We're going to have a Woven Fates 5e campaign streaming live on Sundays at 4 p.m. And EST, and then restreamed, or not EST anymore, EDT, and then restreamed Thursdays at 7 p.m. Podcast drop on Monday mornings, and then we're going to be doing Enclave here every other Monday. And so there's a bunch of enjoyable stuff to look forward to on this Twitch channel, including more Enclave. And so if you enjoyed it, we would love to have you back in the future, and make sure you support the Dice Dragons Guild in the meantime. Let's do our sign-offs in the same way we introduced ourselves. So I forget that order actually. We'll say James, Mary, Detour. Give you a little sign off. I'll do mine, and then we'll cut it.
I'm James. I have played Danyel, and he will most definitely return. Y'all have
Lovely.
a fantastic evening.
I'm Mary. I played Siri. She's also going to return and join the Enclave Discord if you're into joining Discords.
No, thank you. I need to remind myself of that. Okay, and Detour, and then I'll do that.
There's I'm Dave, aka Detour. I've played Crow, and it's been a blast. Thank you all for having me for this session.
Perfection. And as always, My name is Robby Howell. If you're interested in learning more about Enclave, we have our YouTube channel and Discord server linked somewhere around. I'm sure the DDG people have done a better job than I ever could of making that happen. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed the game. And ciao for now. Yeah.